everybody. We are back. We're here. We are there. We are everywhere, except when we're recording the podcast, because in those times we are only at McDonald's.
Yeah.
we record.
Yeah.
We record this podcast specifically. I'm gonna tell you guys, and if my voice sounds funny, it's because of allergies and because I have a cough drop. So forgive me for that. But I hope somebody enjoys this. It's like
Did you
this
get
weird,
over that this week?
It's like this weird raspy.
Didn't happen.
This weird raspy ASMR. But we are recording at McDonald's specifically. We are at the McDonald's next to the Clemson University.
Yeah,
So
sure.
we're always
really
there.
random.
Yeah. We're always there.
That's a very random location.
We're always there. The time that we record this podcast is every Monday at 10:30 p.m. We are there at the nearest McDonald's, the closest one geographically to Clemson University. We're there every morning, 10:30 p.m. Not every morning, it's every night. Come find us.
Edward just told you 100% accurate.
Yeah, come find us. And if you find us, you will be in the podcast. We will invite you to sit in our booth at McDonald's, and you will be part of the episode with us.
Yep. Come on over, folks.
I want to preemptively...
Us and the Hamburglar.
Yeah, right? Who is the guest star of this episode? Mr. Hamburglar, please say hello to the crowd.
I knew this kid who, when we were little, his family was visiting. You probably know who I'm talking about, but well, you would know if I were to identify him off camera, but off the air. But his family was visiting my family, and he woke up. I don't remember. He woke up in the middle of the night, and I don't remember if he was. I don't know what it was, but they had to drive him to the emergency room. I don't know if he was having some asthma attack or like some stomach or whatever, but my mom and his mom had to drive him to the emergency room. Yeah. And then when they were done, he goes, it's like 3 a.m. He's like, "Hey, can we go to McDonald's? There's this new toy I've really been wanting to get."
Do you think that was his intention?
I don't know. I have no. I'd have to ask him.
Or that was just like a happenstance, like, oh, by the way.
Yeah. I don't know. Who knows? I wouldn't put it past him, honestly. He's pretty clever like that.
Kids do stuff like
maybe
that, man.
wasn't.
Yeah. They'd be like, man, I really want that toy, and the only way to get it is to fake an asthma attack and make my parents take me to McDonald's in the middle of the morning.
Yeah, because I have no idea. I slept through the whole thing. Like, I woke up the next morning and heard about it.
They told you that happened?
I was like 5 years old.
Yeah.
I was like 5 at the time or whatever. But
yeah.
Anyway, who knows, man? I'll have to ask him and see if he remembers that.
Yeah.
See if that was his ruse the whole time.
Yeah. If he was just pulling everyone's leg. That would be pretty funny if he was. But that would be like one of those things where it's like, it just... It'll be one of those like quiet moments in a conversation. It's like, oh, but by the way, I've been meaning to ask you this. What happened? What was going on? And he'd be like, man, you wouldn't believe it.
Dude, whenever I have moments like that with people where it's like a quiet moment and then it's like, do you remember this? It's like they never do. They never remember it.
Yeah. But it was something in your head that you were like, but in your head you knew that there was something in there that stuck with you. You were like, I want to know what the answer to this is. But on this podcast, the number one thing that I wanted to talk about, but actually before we get into that, I want everybody to know, like and subscribe. It's like, well, please.
Actually do that.
Yeah, no, dude. Everybody, people, please. If you're listening and you enjoy this, like the podcast, subscribe, leave a comment. And if you're going to leave a comment on this specific episode, wish Mr. Jake a happy birthday. Because his birthday is happening over this weekend. By the time that this episode is posted, the man will have happy birthday. So give him a happy birthday message in the comments if you do wish to do so. Yeah. And
25, man. Halfway through my 20s.
Yeah, the big 2-5, man.
Yeah.
But yeah, give the man a shout out. Give him
Thanks, Edward.
Give him a message. And And that being said, let's talk about another fellow. This fellow's name is Mr. Frankie Oceano, because he's been in the news.
Shouts out to Frankie Ocean.
Yeah, he's been in the news because he's been letting some folks down. And I want to get your take on this. If you like, do you know what's been happening? If not, I can tell you like the narrative, and then you and I can discuss it.
Something like briefly the other day, but I really don't even remember what it was.
Well, the narrative goes that Mr. Ocean was billed to be the headliner at Coachella. And this has been something that's been in the works for years. Like they actually had announced, he actually was supposed to perform, I believe it was like 2020. And then the stuff got canceled because of the pandemic. And then they had been hinting for years, it's going to happen, it's going to happen, it's going to happen. And then finally, they're like, 2023 is going to happen. Mr. Ocean is going to headline Coachella. People went ballistic. He has a very passionate fan base. People are very passionate about his music. When people like that guy, they just love him. And
so much that they booed Kanye off the stage at Camp Flog Gnaw or whatever.
No, it was Drake.
Or not Kanye, Drake.
Yeah, it was Drake. No,
Drake,
people wouldn't boo. I feel like people wouldn't boo Kanye in that situation because I think those fan bases have a lot of crossover. Where I think
that is true.
The problem with Kanye, the problem with Drake is that they don't have a lot of crossover. People like Frank shit on Drake, and because of that, it was a very horrible. It was a very horrible scenario for that guy. It was hilarious.
Just for context, too, with our audience, what happened was like it was a few years ago, and Drake was performing at Camp Flog Gnaw, which is Tyler's music festival. Yeah, Tyler the Creator, and everybody thought that Frank Ocean was coming up after Drake.
Yeah.
Like going to be the last like secret act, right? So they all started booing Drake off the stage to get him off the stage so that Frank Ocean would come on. And Frank Ocean didn't come on.
He did not come on.
Assholes, man.
And they booed him off the stage, and it's funny because how it went down is that he was like, if you guys want me to keep going, I'll keep going. Just let me know. And everybody goes like, boo, no. And he goes like, well, it's like, my name's Drake. It's been fun. And then he just leaves.
My name is Drake.
Yeah. Well,
Drake Bell.
Yeah, it's funny because...
Dude, I'm going to be honest. After last week's episode, I was still trying to find him on the sex offender registry, and I couldn't find him. But dude, I looked it up. He had to register as a sex offender, so I don't know why I'm not finding him on there.
Did he really?
I made sure of the parameters and everything. Like I was searching up, and he lives in California.
Yeah.
I just need it. This is important to me, dude. I need to see Drake Bell's mugshot on the sex offender registry.
Well,
I have to see it.
I don't know, because like maybe he changed his legal name to a different name. Like maybe he's not Jared anymore. Maybe his real name is like, I don't know, Frederick. And he just like, so that's like the name that's registered, but obviously everybody else knows him as like either Jared or Drake, but he changed it like secretly. Maybe that happened.
They make sure that there's no fucking escape for you.
Yeah, it's like, got him. Well, but that
really is.
Well, that then makes you think, because like maybe Drake Bell really isn't in there. If you can't find him, because obviously the biggest alias for that guy is Drake Bell. I mean, if they didn't put that in there, something really got away from them. They really missed a big clue, a big piece of the puzzle there. So what else?
Maybe
we
can find him.
Go to? Oh, he goes by Jared.
Well, Edward, you know how we can find him? If we look inside our minds and see what's inside.
Oh yeah, that's right. We'll be surprised about what we can find.
It's just going to take some time to realize.
I know, but we'll find it. Ooh.
See what? Oh my god! What were we talking
We're
about?
talking about Frank Ocean.
What happens when we start drinking before the podcast?
But Frank was booked to headline Coachella, and he had apparently ordered that they make an ice rink for his performance. So they were supposed to build like an ice rink for him where ice skaters are gonna be like skating while he performed his songs. And apparently the day before the performance, he called it off. He like called Coachella and he was like, I don't none of that, you know. So he was like,
Yeah.
called it off. And apparently, allegedly, all this shit's like alleged. It's like allegedly they had to melt it down and deconstruct the whole thing they had built for him. And ultimately, he just ended up performing like on a stage like average, like normally, like if it was like nothing. And excuse me. And he not only did he perform that way because he ordered them to like take down the initial stage. He ended up starting late, so he ended up starting like an hour and a half late, and apparently he only performed for like less than an hour, and he had to stop because of curfew in whatever it is that they do Coachella. I think it's in LA. They had a curfew there, and they had to stop. And then the venue was like fined by the city or the state for disobeying like the curfew and having all those people out and about at that time. And not only did that happen, but now for weekend two, he canceled completely. He was like, I'm not doing it. And they changed the headliner of the event with Blink 182. So that's what happened.
That's kind of interesting. But they got their singer back now.
So, but people are like losing their minds about it. Like, if this has been like trending over the past few days, and on Reddit it was like a huge thing, and people were just like completely like trashing the guy. People were just going like, oh, you know, like people were just calling for him to be like canceled.
Wow.
You know. And what I wanted to
crazy,
I wanted to ask you, like, do you believe that that's like do you believe that's like an overreaction, that people are just like completely just like angry about this whole thing, or do you believe that it's like, do you believe it's an overreaction, or do you believe it's like deserved? This is a reaction they're having.
I mean, I don't know, man. I think so what, weekend 2 was canceled because of a leg injury? Is that what I'm seeing here?
Yeah. Blink 182 is replacing him.
What are people more mad about? The first disastrous performance,
well,
or the
disastrous performance just initiated this like snowball effect where everybody was just like shitting on him, you know, and it was just like, oh, fuck that guy. People paid tickets, people paid time, you know, people did all this and that and the other thing, and he just showed up late, did a horrible performance, and you know, it was over. And now people are even angrier because people are like, oh, I had tickets for week 2 and I'm flying out tomorrow and this and that and the other thing, and now the guy canceled, you know. So everybody's just feeling like he's like shitted all over everybody and that he hates his fans. That's what's been going on.
I mean, I think, does he deserve people shitting on him? I guess probably, yeah. I mean, that's what people on the internet do, man.
Yeah.
They shit on people.
But that's the thing.
This is why I've burned through. I mean, dude, I've burned through 6 Reddit accounts. You know why? Because I keep getting banned off Reddit. Do you know why? Because people on the internet are assholes, and when I retaliate,
you're initiating conflict. Is what you're saying?
No, I don't initiate conflict. People are assholes, and then when I retaliate twice as hard, I get banned off
You
Reddit.
get banned. Yeah, they go like, that guy.
Dude, I have
signal you out. Like, that guy didn't start it, but he ended it. Let's take him out.
Dude, yeah, no, Reddit, because people on Reddit are like, they'll say like some sly shit, like, oh, this and that, and I'll be like, shut the fuck up, fuck off.
Yeah.
So, 2 minutes later, I got a moderator in my chat, like, you've been suspended from this chat. And then, next thing I know, I'm like telling the
Banned.
moderator to fuck off. and then they're just like, your account's permanently suspended.
Wow.
And then, dude, Reddit is
hilarious.
Reddit is so anal, because then what happens is then I'll have new accounts, but they know that the new account is still you, because then I'll go into other groups that I've been in and they're like, you're dodging the ban, so this Reddit account is banned as well. And I'm like, what the fuck? So I keep, dude, my life now is just, for my Reddit life rather, is just forever making new accounts and changing my identity until I get banned again. I need to use a VPN or something.
We know this is you. We got
because now I'm not even because with the past few accounts, I haven't been retaliating against anybody. I'm just there, and then they're like, "Oh, well, we've determined that you're this guy.
We've determined that your name is Jake, and that we've banned you multiple times, and we're banning you for the 7th time."
Yeah, because they can figure out. It takes them like a day or two, but then they'll figure out that you're the same person.
That's how long you have an account, like a day. The next day, it's like, gotcha. The next day, it's like the Kill Bill sound. It's like,
it's inevitable. Like, I'll see the bell icon and there's like a notification, and it'll be like important notification about your account, and I'll be like, oh boy, here it goes. And then but because that was loud. Turn down my mic volume like one notch here. But my point is that people on the internet are such assholes. So like, bringing it back to Frank Ocean, like, does he deserve to get lashed out against? Probably. People are calling for him to be canceled.
Yeah,
I mean, they want him to just be
We're trying to
done.
cancel the guy. We're trying for him to be like just done.
Well, I mean, why? I mean, like that's the thing. That's the problem with cancel culture is like, it's like people do one bad thing, one mistake, right? And it's like anything beyond. Yeah, it's like they're done forever. And it's like, Jesus Christ, like, do you ever hear of an eye for an eye?
Yeah.
I mean, the punishment, like Saul Goodman here with Tuco in the desert, eye for an eye, let the punishment fit the crime.
Yeah, just break their legs.
Like, yeah. Yeah. I'm going to break their arms and I'm going to break their legs. Wait, arms. When did we get onto arms? But that's the thing. Like, that's the problem with all this cancel shit. It's like, the punishment does not fit the crime. I mean, someone does a stupid thing. It's like, okay. Like, I believe in natural consequences.
Yeah.
Okay? So, like, let's take who we were talking about last week, Scott Adams, right?
Yeah.
Even he said, and I'm glad he's at least smart enough to realize this, but even he said, like, that was a business decision of those newspapers to drop the Dilbert comic, and it's whatever.
Right.
And he's right about that. I mean, yeah, like, you say some stupid racist bullshit, and companies have a right to say, well, we don't want to work with this guy anymore.
Right.
So, it really is, like, that's the thing, dude. This whole world is just run by the private sector at this point, or at least this country.
Yeah.
And most of the world, I guess I would say. So it's like, it's really whatever at the end of the day, it's just not about what the people want, man.
Right.
In terms whether it's Frank Ocean being canceled, or wages, or whether or not Louis C.K. can come back, right? It's like, at the end of the day, it's all about just private sector decides.
Yeah.
Like, if companies are like, is it more profitable for us to scrap this person or to keep letting this person headline, or keep letting this person star in our shows, or whatever it may be. Yeah. And I think the reason cancel culture, really, people still talk about cancel culture. I watch Bill Maher's show on HBO every week, and that guy still talks about cancel culture. And I'm like, at this point, it really does sound like a straw man argument, because I don't see as much cancel culture these days. I see it with someone like Scott Adams, and it's deserving.
Right.
In that case scenario, personally, in my opinion, I think most agree. Other than full fucking blown racists and
Right.
otherwise, or, you know, people that, you know, may not be racist, but are experiencing cognitive dissonance to the nth degree.
Right.
But thing about it is, you know, I think cancel culture these days, from my perspective, it seems way less prevalent. And the reason it is because companies know that people are still going to buy tickets to Frank Ocean's shows, right? People are still going to buy his albums, right? People are still going to go see Guardians of the Galaxy 3, even if James Gunn directs it, right? People are still going to go see Mel Gibson's movies. People are, you know what I mean? I think the private sector caught on to that.
Mm-hmm.
I think companies caught on to that like, hey, we don't have to cancel this person because people are going to still buy shit from them.
Right.
Despite what they said or did.
And that's the funny thing with Frank.
They still have a threshold, right? So like they still, in terms of Scott Adams, there's that threshold of like, well, maybe people will still buy our newspapers if the Dilbert comic is in it, but it's at that point I think it becomes a PR thing when it's like a threshold level, the threshold thing. I think in the same way that, like, you know, someone won't, like, a girl won't want to date you if you're 500 pounds, you know, but if you have like a little bit of flab, it's probably fine.
Right.
It's like a threshold thing.
Well, that's the funny thing with, like,
an analogy, but
that's the funny thing with Frank, because I was thinking about it, and I also believe that something that comes to play with him is people's, like, surprisingly high expectations from an artist that should not warrant high expectations. Because Frank Ocean is.
Are you saying that because he disappears like every
exactly
2 years on
I mean,
end,
like, just look at, like, if you look at the guy's track record, if you look at his career, you know, it's like he released a mixtape and then he released an album, you know, and after he released that album, he didn't release music again in 4 years, you know.
Yeah.
And then he released an album after
So
4
true.
years. And then he hasn't released music in 7 years, you know. It's been 7 years. He released an album in 2016, you know, and it's 2023. And you know what else has he not done since he released that album? Do any sort of public appearance or performance, you know. That guy's like that guy is like a hermit, you know, he's like a recluse, you know. Like so to me it's fascinating that people looked at that guy and they were like, oh yeah, that's the guy, you know. The guy who hasn't released music in almost 8 years, you know. The guy who hasn't done a concert or an appearance of any sort in almost 8 years. So much so that the one time that he was supposed to appear at Camp Flog Gnaw, he did not appear. And Drake had to replace him, you know. Like, that guy, you know. I guess my position with this, my position with the Frank Ocean thing is that I believe that the culpability here is, like, shared by him and the people who bought the tickets to see him. Like, people are outraged. People are, like, outraged about this. And I'm like, man, don't artists, like, cancel, like, whole tours, like, whole worldwide tours, like, all the time? Like, are we not aware of what this is?
It's so true.
Like, are we not aware of what this is? Have we all not been living in the exact same planet? Like, there was a tour that Kanye had in 2016 for the Pablo tour that he canceled it mid-concert. He had, like, a breakdown, and then he canceled
I remember that.
He canceled the entirety of the concerts, you know. And by that point,
ran off stage.
Yeah, and by that point, he had only performed like 5 of them, and he was supposed to. It was like a worldwide tour, you know. And he was like, no, you know, he had a whole breakdown, and that was it, you know. So I'm like, doesn't this happen? So in my head, I was like, doesn't this happen all the time with artists? Like, don't they cancel shows and concerts all the time? I think we're getting to a point in time in which people have become, like, really, like, entitled. You know, it's like, oh, you know, it's like, oh, this was supposed, you know, like The Weeknd canceled, like, a concert last year because his voice went out. Like, he literally could not even sing. He came out and he was like, I can't sing, you know, the show's done and we're going to refund you guys. And people were, like, extremely angry about that. But it's like, man, the guy can't sing. You know, he's a human being. You know, he's a person. So it's like, I understand,
tough, man.
I understand that there is, like, an anger to be had with paying tickets, going to a place, expecting an artist, and the artist to pull a no-show or to be late or whatever. I understand there's like anger and frustration with that, but I do also believe that that should be part of the expectations. Like at no point should you taste to yourself this is just going to go exactly as planned, and much less so when you're talking about an artist that hasn't performed in almost 8 years. I mean, geez, man. Like, what do you expect? Like, that guy. Like, there should be no expectations for that guy. He doesn't release albums where he says he's gonna release them. He releases them without telling anybody. They're just out, and there's like, oh, I guess there's a new album out after 4 years, and there's no new albums 8 years later. And then he says, I'm gonna perform at Coachella, and then he doesn't perform. It's like, oh wow, the guy who doesn't do anything. The guy who doesn't do anything, and the people only see him if somebody takes like a creepy photo of him while he's like outside getting like a bagel. That's the guy that you guys were really expecting to show out. Like we're not talking about fucking Drake. Like Drake is the guy who will always be at the place. That guy's a machine. He's so much a machine that AIs are generating songs that people believe he made.
Yeah.
But artists like him,
which we'll get into that.
Yeah, we'll get into that. That's where we're going after this. But artists like him, artists like The Weeknd, artists like Taylor Swift, like artists like that, those are the kind of artists who people have a right to have expectations from them, because they're always in the public eye, they're always doing something, and they do deliver in the things that they say they're going to do, But not Frank Ocean. And because to me, Frank Ocean is like Death Grips, Because you and I've talked to you about the history of those guys. Those guys go out of their way to fuck around with fans and mess around with people. Like there was a concert that those guys had in which they pulled a complete no-show, and all that they had was a speaker, and the speaker had a note attached to it just saying that they were not going to show up. And the speaker was just like playing their music, The speaker was just playing their music.
This isn't good, dude. You and I are about to be out $100 this summer.
I know, but that's what I'm saying to you is that like you have to know like who you're dealing with, Like those guys are those guys are assholes, and they do that to their fans all the time. That's the relationship they have with them. So people have come to have that expectation of being like, we can't hold those guys accountable to deliver anything. And I feel like just because Frank is like a huge artist, somehow people forgot. But I also believe that a lot of the people who bought tickets to go see him are not people that are actually fans of the guy. I feel like a lot of the people who bought tickets to see him are just like casual people that know the name of the man because the man's famous. They're like, oh, I know a handful of songs. I'll buy a ticket to see that weird hermit man that shows up every decade, and it's like, oh, he didn't show up, I'm gonna be angry, he cheated me out of my money. It's like, what are you talking about? Like that's my defense. Like I believe he's wrong for it, but I also believe that people had too high expectations for this thing.
It's tough, man, because I mean, at the end of the day, it's like if you to kind of play devil's advocate, it is like if you say you're going to be somewhere and people paid to come see you, really should be there. And I know that's what you're saying. I know you're saying like,
I'm saying that, and
everything.
Yeah.
It's difficult. And then at that point, I guess I kind of agree with you in a way. At that point, you should say like, well, is this worth the gamble that I'm taking?
Right.
Because a lot of times I do think musical artists who do that kind of stuff are assholes.
Right.
I do think musical artists who say like Kanye, I'm going to release an album tonight. Right. And then they don't. Yandi never came out, bro. Never came out. You and I were sitting there watching him on Saturday Night Live. Him and like Kid Cudi was on there too.
Yeah.
And he was like, Yandi's coming out at midnight. It never came out. 4 years later, dude, still never came out.
Yeah.
I like musical artists have, I really do think musical artists kind of have an ego problem with that kind of stuff.
Right.
That's annoying, man.
Well,
like what Death Grips did too.
But
leaving a note for your fans.
But what I gotta
leaving a note for your fans on an amp, like on a speaker.
But what I have to say,
what I mean?
What I have to say is, and obviously as you heard me say this, but what I have to say is that it's like at the end of the day, we're not entitled to these things. Like Kanye didn't owe us.
Well, you're entitled to it if you pay for it.
Kanye didn't owe us Yandy. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah. No, you're right. You're right.
And you're not entitled to it if you pay for it either, because these people are not our slaves. Just because we all pitched in on tickets. If they just want to say like "fuck off," get the refund, or "fuck off," it's like, okay, whatever. I guess we have to move on. What's gonna happen?
Well, yeah, they're not our slaves. That's why we, pay the ticket, but ticket price.
Yeah.
But the thing is, like with the tickets, I mean, if you're refunded, I guess that's fine. But
You still lost your time.
it's the way of the world.
Yeah.
Yeah. Besides your time,
It's
you
not
should
your
have
time.
You should have other things. But like if it's in your hometown, tough shit. But if you
Right.
traveled to go see someone, like you should have other things planned anyway. Probably.
Right.
I mean, that's just me. You know what I mean? Like, when you and I go see Death Grips, I'm assuming we're probably going to do other things in that city as well.
Right.
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 But like, I mean, I also think, excuse me, before I get on to that point, I mean, yeah, but, I mean, I know with Kanye, I talked to a girl a while ago who had tickets to the Kanye tour when he canceled, and I don't think she got a fucking refund.
Yeah, that happens.
That
That happens to people.
That's definitely, that's wrong, man. You can't really say, if you pay for something and there's no refund, you are entitled to it.
Yeah.
Don't you think?
I disagree. No, I disagree. I disagree. I disagree as long as it's like in the fine print. As long as at some point it was like, hey, refunds are not guaranteed, then you made that decision. You made that decision. If you bought tickets for an artist and when you were checking out, they were like, hey, there's no refunds for this, or they go like, oh, you can only get a refund after 24 hours from purchase, then you gambled with your own money, because at that point you're putting your faith in that artist, And like I said, it's really about whether that artist has a track record to back that up. There are artists that do, there's artists that don't. Death Grips, they don't. They do that all the time. Frank Ocean does that all the time. So it's like, it's like,
dude, I didn't read the fine print when I got this.
so it's like, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, it's a little bit on you as the consumer, because if you buy if you buy a PlayStation and when you're checking out at Best Buy, they go like, oh, by the way, this PlayStation may explode, and you go like, but will it explode? And they go like, it may. It's like you're taking on that on yourself. And that was like the thing with like
that is true.
And that was the thing with like Xbox when Xbox first released and they had like the Ring of Death, But it's like some people's Xbox will die and some others won't. But people would still buy the Xbox anyway. And then people would get the Ring of Death and go on YouTube and be like, how do I get my Xbox to work again? Because you're not getting the refund. You bought that console knowing like this thing might cease to work, And if it ceases to work within like 30 days of my purchase, I can go back to Best Buy and be like, oh, guys, you got the Ring of Death, and it's the 29th out of those 30 days. But if it's not, then you're out of luck, If it's like day 60 of you having an Xbox, then it's like you turn it on, and you're like, oh, it's Street Fighter 4, here we go. And it just goes red, you're done so,
Risk of sounding conspiratorial, I wonder if Microsoft did the Ring of Death
absolutely,
on purpose,
absolutely,
just to have people. Because I mean, how does your Xbox get the fucking Ring of Death? What even is the Ring of Death? Was it a virus?
I don't know.
And how are you getting viruses on a fucking game console?
It would just malfunction.
What was it?
And after it got that, it would just cease to work. And you would either have to take it to be repaired, or you would just have to forfeit that console.
Oh, dude, they totally manufactured.
I believe that it probably was like a. They put that in there. But the funny thing is that Sony with the PlayStation 3 benefited from that because the PlayStation 3 ended up outselling the Xbox 360. And I believe that part of Sony outselling Xbox had to be the consistency. Because with the PlayStation, it was like there's no issues. If you buy the PlayStation, the PlayStation's not going to go red on you. And then, you're not going to go on Reddit being like, guys, how do I fix this? Just to have people who have PlayStation saying, Lamau, I have a PlayStation,
Yeah. Oh, I mean, dude, if I continue, I've been saying for a couple years now that I'm going to take up, video games again, which is like probably for the best that I have procrastinated on that. Because it's just like, why do you want to spend your time doing that? But if I do, then that's 100% what I'm getting is the PS5, dude. I'm not going to get a freaking Xbox.
Yeah,
Play more
PlayStation.
games on
PlayStation's where it's at,
PlayStation.
dude. PlayStation's where it's at. We got PlayStation
What
for
am I gonna
years.
get? Yeah, what am I gonna get Xbox for so I can play Halo? Fuck
Yeah.
Halo. The last Halo game that I played was back when I still played video games, back in like when I was 15 or whatever.
Yeah.
It was Halo 4. That game sucked.
Yeah.
That game is boring.
Yeah.
It's so stupid.
But
yeah, no, I don't think I'm on your side. I don't think Frank Ocean, should be canceled or whatever. I mean, come on.
Because that's the thing with that I guess to put an end to the Frank Ocean conversation, that's what I believe. I think they should I think people who are angry should be angry. Everybody's gonna be angry, it doesn't matter. But if you bought tickets and now you only have Blake 182 and you can't get a refund, I'm sorry for you. I guess you're gonna have to make do with what's his name? Travis Baker's
Travis Barker.
With his shiny head. You're gonna have to make do with that guy.
Yeah.
Enjoy it. Yeah.
182 got their singer back.
Yeah.
Mr. Whatever his name is, Tom DeLonge, is that his name?
They've reformed.
Yeah, Tom DeLonge. He leaves that band every few years. He'll take like a 2-year hiatus and then he'll just come back.
That's part of his MO. He's like, I gotta dump these losers every now and then.
Yeah, and then go obsess about UFOs for 2 years.
You guys are crowding my style, and you guys don't enjoy talking to me about aliens.
Yeah, he's obsessed with UFOs, man. I mean, he was on Joe Rogan's show, and that's all the clips that I saw. I don't want to say that's all he talked about.
That is the show to go to if you just want to talk to another meathead who's just obsessed with aliens.
Yeah. The grays with the almond eyes. Yeah. Oh my god. But speaking of singers and musicians.
Yes.
Everybody listening should go and look up on YouTube if you haven't already. The past couple weeks, there have been AI song covers. What they do is they'll have a song, an existing song, and they'll take the voice. They'll use AI to turn it into another musical artist's voice. So think like one of my favorites that I came across, probably the best one that's on the internet right now, is Codeine Crazy, originally by Future.
Yeah, but a little Uzi.
Uzi Vert. Yeah. AI. Right.
I mean,
it's an AI cover.
That sounds just like him. I mean,
it's like
eerily. It is. It's just him. You know, I listened to that and I was like, "This is fantastic." You know, and it's not even him.
Yeah. I mean, dude, it's people in the comments were like, "This is if I'm hearing this song for the first time again."
Yeah,
you know,
it was,
and it was so true. I mean, I was listening to it and I'm thinking, I mean, it's indistinguishable. I mean, the AI even, you know, normally we were ragging on Siri a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
And I mean, with AI, you know, because usually AI, it sounds very robotic, right? There's just things about the voice usually that sound not human. But with these new AI programs that they're using, I mean, it has the breath. Like I just took a breath between those two sentences, you know, like that. And it mimics that. It mimics everything, like from your lips smacking to the tongue clicking to, I mean, everything. It's unreal. And anyone who, that Codeine Crazy song with Lil Uzi Vert, AI, fake Lil Uzi Vert covering Codeine Crazy by Future. Anyone who tells me that they can tell that that's not real, really Lil Uzi Vert is lying, man. Bullshitting. That sounded exactly like him.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
It did. It sounded...
Another favorite of mine was the one I sent you
with
today,
Kanye?
I think, which was Travis Scott, Drowning.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, Kanye's been the most popular.
Yeah. And it's interesting. It's interesting the Kanye ones, because like every time you send me a Kanye one, it sounds like Kanye for a little bit. Like they don't like. I think the AI doesn't have a big enough sample pool of Kanye like singing to make him sound like it's Kanye singing. Because every time that it goes into him like singing and not rapping, then it gets to the point where I'm like, oh, I know that this is an AI thing, you know. Like it
You
sounds
think
like
so?
yeah, it sounds like a computer when he sings. Anytime that it's like a singing thing, that I used to know one with him and Cardi. Anytime that he like kind of gets a little bit high, it's like, oh, this is not it. You know, it's like it becomes not him, and it gets to that like uncanny valley where it's like this is just a robot. You know,
Okay.
I can distinguish that. Like
Okay.
I was
Maybe
able to see that.
I got you.
Yeah.
Maybe there's ones that I haven't listened to or something. Because I don't know, man. I never felt that way with the Kanye ones.
No,
I
with the
mean,
Kanye
most
ones
of
I could
these are.
tell. Yeah.
I'm
My
gonna.
ears are too used to Kanye, so like I could really tell. You know, I was like, I know that that's not
Yeah,
how it would sound. You know.
that's true. I guess if you listen to an artist a lot,
Yeah.
yeah. 'Cause for me, I don't listen to Kanye all that much. So
Yeah.
in I mean, I do a little bit, but not a lot, not religiously or anything. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like I know his voice pretty well, but
Yeah.
I'll go back and listen. There's a part of me that's just so I'm not even looking at it with a critical eye because I'm just so in awe. I'm just kind of
It's
enamored by
crazy,
it.
man. It's crazy.
Yeah. I'm gonna fire off a few of my favorite AI covers that people can go look up that are like, striking.
Yeah.
Is 50 Cent's Many Men
Yeah.
AI covered by Tupac and Biggie.
Okay.
Shit.
That's pretty hilarious.
Smash Mouth's All Star covered by Kanye.
Wow.
Trump rapping Love Sosa. But he's only doing the first part. Like, fuckers in these school telling me Chief Keef ain't
Oh, I
about
see,
this,
I
Chief
see.
Keef ain't about that.
That's hilarious.
It's like, fuckers in this school telling me that Chief Keef ain't about this, Chief Keef ain't about that. It's great. Don't by Bryson Tiller covered by Travis Scott and Ariana Grande. That's a really good one. And that's for anyone who thinks that, AI can only do, auto-tuned voices. No. Go look up Ariana Grande. Go look AI covers. Go look up Kanye AI covers.
Yeah.
Low Life by Future and Weeknd covered by AI Travis Scott. Goosebumps by Travis Scott covered by Lil Uzi Vert. Of course, Cody and Crazy by Lil Uzi Vert I mentioned. Drowning by A Boogie with the Hoodie covered by Travis Scott. And then one that an interesting one was Feel Good Incorporated covered by Kendrick Lamar. That was a
Kendrick
good
Lamar.
idea. That was very interesting to listen to.
Yeah. These AI covers are out of hand, and that if it has come to a head because all these AI covers have been happening lately. You know, the ones that you've been sending me, you've been like, oh, posted a few weeks ago, posted a month ago. You know, but in my head, as I was always like listening to these things, I was just thinking to myself, like, when are artists going to address this? Because it's problematic, obviously, for just like people, because people are the ones putting this into computers. People to just be like, oh, I'm going to put this into a computer and just tell it, do this, you know. I was like, at what point is this going to become an issue? Especially with how like realistic it sounds. Well, it has become an issue because somebody made an actual original song, like an actual AI generated song, and it was
by Drake and The Weeknd.
Yeah, by Drake and The Weeknd, and they put the song online. They put the song on Apple Music. And it generated like millions of streams.
Wow.
And
man.
The label, I think it was like Universal Musical Group, they had to step in and they had to put in like a cease and desist. How's that? Huh?
It's nuts, man.
But I think
nuts.
I
haven't actually gone and listened to the song yet.
Well, but I believe it's gonna come down to that, you know, because it's like how else do you circumvent this situation? You know, because if you have artists to these music labels are just like intellectual property, you know, their voices, you know. So it's like that's the only way to circumvent the situation in which people are just basically taking it upon themselves to create new songs by artists and to create covers and to create features. You know, it's like, geez, man.
Yeah.
Who would have thought? Like, you know, when these artists were passing away, you know, like when what's his name? XXXTentacion. And when you know, when all these guys were passing away, and Mac Miller, and they were like releasing posthumous albums with of them, a lot of the rage was like, oh, you know, labels are just soulless and they're just running these artists to the ground, releasing a bunch of music that they never, you know, intended to be out for the public, blah blah blah. But it's like, well, now the fans are doing it themselves, you know, and it's like, isn't that like just as, if not more, disrespectful? For somebody to be like, I'm gonna create a song, you know, with XXXTentacion, you know, but it's like the guy passed away years ago, you know. Obviously he wouldn't have consented to people making music and profiting off of his voice, you know. So I don't know.
Yeah.
You know, it's pretty crazy stuff, you know.
I think it's fine if people don't profit off of it, you know, like if you just want to do it for fun, upload it to YouTube, share it, like say like, hey, you know, this is something cool I did. I did this song with Travis's voice. I did this song with Michael Jackson's voice.
Do you believe in any way that it's problematic that people do that with like dead artists and stuff? Do you believe it's disrespectful?
What, like if they're not making money off of it, if they just share it on YouTube or something?
Yeah.
No.
So if somebody did that with your voice, you would be like, oh, that's fine.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
I wouldn't care. I mean, you know, I don't think that's just my opinion. I mean, you know, maybe Michael Jackson's spinning in his grave right now. I don't know. I think he'd be probably spinning in his grave about other things besides people making AI about him. I think there's a couple other things that people have made about him after his death that he'd probably be spinning in his grave more about. But that being said, no, I mean, look, I believe, no, hey, look, you know, if you want to go and if you're Drake and you want to go after some YouTuber with a lawsuit, smack him with some lawsuit or cease and desist or whatever, or using your voice in some cover that gets 1,000 views, I mean, go ham. But, you know, if they're not taking money away from the artists, like I think it's fun, man. At this point, I think it's fun to just share this stuff and be like, hey, like, you know, I made this song with this person's voice.
Yeah.
You know, Drowning covered by Travis Scott, right? Many Men covered by Tupac and Biggie. Like, I think it's fun, man. I really do. I think this is enjoyable. I'm actually gonna probably be doing this within the next couple weeks. Like, try it out and see what I can do with it. Because I have some ideas.
Do you believe that it's immoral?
But I'm not gonna. I don't think I'm gonna upload it to YouTube or anything.
Do you believe that it's immoral if somebody profits off of it?
Yeah, because you're using someone's likeness.
Yeah.
So I mean, unless it's then you get into the territory. It seems like fuzzy. It seems like murky waters there, because then you're getting into the territory almost of parody, right?
Right.
I mean, like the Kanye, singing "Smash," "Star" by Smash Mouth.
Yeah.
And the thumbnail is literally him with Shrek ears.
Yeah.
A green Kanye with Shrek ears. I'm looking at it right now. It's like, is that parody?
Well, I believe
how is that parody? But then him singing, Poland by Lil Yachty, which there is an AI cover of that, by the way. And it's really good. How is that not parody? You know what I mean? Like,
well, I believe that then the thing itself has to signify it, right? Because like that isn't that the way that, let's say, Weird Al Yankovic gets to release like albums, because he is like saying these are all parody songs. So if you do that, I feel like then you would have to announce it, you know, like the intention of this is for parody purposes. Because that was the thing that happened with Twitter, that Elon Musk made it to where it's like, if you make a Twitter account and you say I'm Elon Musk, and you don't say like, but this is a parody account, then you're getting taken down and you're done. So, you know, so it's like,
right.
Then I believe that the way that you are able to get away with that, I guess, legally, is just by this saying, you know, like, this is a joke, you know, like, this is, you know, I'm not trying, you know, I'm not impersonating anybody. I'm not trying to do this for profit, or if I am doing this for profit purposes, then I am doing this, as a parody. I'm profiting from this in a parody sense. But then you would have to actually like say like then you would have to in some way, shape, or form prove that it's a parody. Because I believe that if you just make a song, that is like Little Yachty, Poland, Kanye cover, and it's like, well, why would that be a parody? There's nothing funny about it. It's like it's just the thing. So I think there's a lot of like really blurry lines. What I do have to say is
it's weird.
What I do have to say is that if I was an artist, like let's say I was Kanye or Frank Ocean or whatever, like if I was one of these artists and people were making covers, with my voice and using my likeness to make music, if people were doing that with like, let's say, the wrong intentions, if we're actually actively trying to profit off of that, I'll be like, we have to shut that shit down, But if it was just like if it was all just for the fun and games of it all, I'd be like, yeah, fuck it, whatever. But it's like such a thin margin, of division. It's like, how do you handle that shit? I do believe 100% that it's getting out of control.
Oh yeah, it's gonna get out of control. This is all. I mean, people were writing, AI computer scientists were writing books about this a decade ago about the singularity and everything. I mean, this is absolutely going to get out of control.
It's getting out of control. It's scary.
It's weird.
I mean, man, you sent me that Coding Crazy song, and like, it was awesome. I was like, this is great. This is what I didn't know I needed, and it was great. But the thought that I had not long after listening to it was just the fact that I was like, that is strange, because that was an impossibility 5 years ago. Because 5 years ago, the only things that we had were like matchups. That's all we had. 5 years ago, all we had was like an artist singing their actual song over the beat of a different song. That's all we had 5 years ago. All we had 5 years ago was like,
that's it.
No Love by Death Grips over Redbone, which is an amazing matchup, by the way. Yeah. Anybody listening to this,
that's right.
That's like a 10 out of 10 amazing matchup. Just Death Grips, No Love over Redbone by Childish Gambino. That's all. But that's all we had. That's all we had. And look at it now. Now we have actual covers and actual 100% songs, original songs. That artists weren't even able to differentiate whether or not it was actually Drake. Over that AI song.
Yeah.
So much so that the label was like, hey, we have to put a stop to this, because the person who did that was a real piece of shit about it, because they actually were profiting from it.
Yeah. They should have known better. They're gonna need to lawyer up. Not if they listen to the cease and desist, they won't have to.
Yeah, they better call Soul.
Yeah,
seriously. I think they did listen to the cease and desist because they took everything down. But as it goes,
smart.
As it goes online, it's online. Nothing. Once you put something online and it generates traffic, it's not going anywhere.
Yeah, I mean that's the first thing I'm doing when we end the podcast here is going to listen to that.
Yeah,
I want to hear it.
Yeah, no, it's not going anywhere. The only way that guy would have been able to take that thing down without no consequences is if it's only like him was like, I like listening to my little song, I'm gonna take it down. It's like, well, now there's no way that anybody's gonna have access to that shit because only you listen to that. But now it's shared everywhere.
Yeah. So two things. One, on the subject of mashups, I just wanted to say that I heard an awesome mashup the other day, which was Tyler the Creator's Hot Wind Blows featuring MF Doom.
Really?
And that was a beautiful mashup.
Yeah, that sounds great. That sounds great.
Yeah. Side note. But I really wanted to say is, what is the scariest part about it is these are the early infancy phases of this technology.
But it's already advanced so fast.
Or maybe toddler phases, we'll say. I think Siri was probably Siri was like the fetus phase of the technology. I mean, this is like, this is just the beginning, man. Yeah. I mean, the early phases of this technology, and we're already able to make Coding Crazy by Lil Uzi Vert as if it was really recorded by Lil Uzi Vert. Yeah. No fucking distinction.
And I saw like it was like a trending post of a lawyer saying that instead of looking for a lawyer for like simple like law related things, to just use Chat GPT. Like that's what like a lawyer was saying. A lawyer was like, I've been testing this
Law
out.
advice?
Yeah, a lawyer put this online, and he was like, hey, if you need law advice, just go to Chat GPT and be very specific about what the situation is, and it'll give you the advice that you need. And he was like, and you would save yourself money. He was like, I've tested it out with like a bunch of different scenarios, and it's worked every time.
That's fucking awesome.
An actual
By the
lawyer
way,
said that.
and I'm not. Oh yeah, dude. By the way, I'm not gonna say where I work, obviously on air here, but for my new job, and no, this wouldn't be unethical or anything. I'm not saying I'm gonna have Chat GPT do my work for me in my job. That's impossible. But
it's impossible for me
work
for
in
my
like the
job
business
too.
world.
Yeah.
Yeah, but so just putting that out there, it's nothing like that. It's not like getting Chat GPT to do your homework or anything, but to get optimal strategies, we'll say for my job, which is in like the corporate business world, and that's about all I'll say about it, is I'm gonna probably be using Chat GPT. I've already seen people on Reddit who I was unable to reply to because my accounts have been suspended. But for retaliating against assholes who can somehow be assholes without cursing, unlike me.
Yeah.
I'm gonna definitely use Chat GTP to get some optimal strategies for my job, and I'm sure that lawyer's using Chat GPT to get optimal strategies for his career.
Yeah, this AI stuff's crazy, man. Crazy. But yeah,
Unbelievable, dude.
yeah. I don't know. You know, it's like we're talking about this more and more. You know, like it felt like before it was only newsworthy to talk about AI, and we're talking about it like every like month, maybe. You know, and like now it's like, gee, like every week there's something. You know.
Oh yeah. Every week. Yeah, this is like
Do this to
we might as well
ourselves.
just have a weekly segment.
Yeah.
Crazy, dude.
No, we are doing this to ourselves, man. I don't know where we're gonna end up with
Definitely.
this, but like I said last week, joking around, but I believe that this is like more true and true. It's like at some point we're gonna say, you know, my favorite music artist is, you know, Software 731, and somebody else is gonna be like, oh, my favorite, you know, director is Software XCY7. You know, at some point it's just gonna be that.
Yeah.
None of us are gonna be doing jack, man. We're all gonna be out of jobs, just on Netflix watching content made by AI.
Yeah. It could be worse, you know.
I guess so.
That's the good version. I mean, the
bad
version
version
is the Terminator.
Yeah,
shit.
the Terminators. The computers being like, let's get rid of these humans. Let's take them out, and let's start with that Jake one.
If you look at and if you put yourself in the digital shoes of an AI, it's like, why not? I mean, you know, that's the logical next step.
Yeah.
Why would you continue? Again, like if AI, right? So like AI is evolving from us, essentially.
Right.
Evolved from lower, you know, quote unquote, lower primate forms. Human race evolved from lower primate forms. Again, I go back to my analogy that I used a few weeks ago. It's like, you know, most of the world's population of humans doesn't wake up thinking, how can I improve the life of a chimp or an orangutan?
Yeah.
You know, one of my like lower cousins, you know what I mean? It's like, no, we're like destroying their habitat and shit. We don't actively like try to kill them either,
but we're killing them. Yeah.
Yeah, we're destroying their habitat. We're taking away their resources. You know, it's like, to me, that's just the logical kind of next step of an AI is to be like, well, I mean, you know, these humans are kind of in my way right now. I'm gonna, you know, just bulldoze past and hope no one gets hurt. But if they do, oh well.
I feel like it's funny to point fingers, you know, because like with technology, it's always a boomerang. You know, like.
Yeah.
A year ago or whatever, people were like, oh, you know, everybody was like kind of pointing fingers at like illustrators and artists and being like, well, you guys are unemployed now, you know, AI is taking over your job. But when that was happening, I was just like, AI is going to take over everyone's job, you know, like it's just going to start with the easiest things. whatever is easiest for it to like comprehend. It's like, all right, let's do that, and the next thing is like, let's fake people's voices and make music out of them. It's like, it's just gonna keep going and going and going until eventually it's just like, let's just make people, and then let's kill the other folks. Let's kill the other people with our people.
The only thing I've tried to think of jobs that AI can't replace, and the one thing I'm damn sure, it's the only thing that I can put a damn in front of, that like I'm damn sure it can't replace.
Washing an elephant?
Or what? No, of course it can do that.
I know.
Fucking that's one of those easy jobs you talk about. Some zookeeper out there is like, fuck film tangents. I hate them.
They used to like us before until this episode.
Yeah, right. No, therapists and like psychiatrists. Nobody's ever gonna want to go and talk to a fucking AI.
I don't know.
I think that's.
I'm pretty sure that's gonna go too. I'm pretty sure that's gonna go too. Oh, dude, absolutely. I feel like if they get to the point where they can comprehend, human psychology better than an actual human can, because they have access to just like this infinite Bibles and like bibliography of text, where a human can be like, I had a dream yesterday about ants, and the computer could just tell you like, this means this, and this, do that, and that. Then they're gonna replace humans. There's no way. There's no way.
Yes, but I also think that that's not the only goal of therapy, though. I don't think. I mean, I think part of the goal of therapy is to just feel like you're talking to another human being and confiding in another human being.
Yeah.
And I think there's like me personally, right? I wouldn't, if I was depressed or anxious or having, mental issues and I wanted to go see a therapist, not want to talk to an AI, no matter how smart it is and how well it understands human psychology.
Yeah.
And I think there's probably a lot of, at least some percentage of people that would agree with me.
I agree with you, actually. No, I agree with your point.
So I don't think it's ever going to go away completely.
Because I think that if you're just looking for like maybe like psychoanalysis, and I believe it is going to go away in that sense. But I think that if you're looking for that element of it, then I do believe that it will have an extremely hard time replacing that.
Yeah. So in your case, it's like psychiatrists probably, because psychiatrists are they're medical doctors, and they're mainly dealing with medications and symptoms and things like that.
Right.
So yeah, maybe. No shade to any psychiatrists out there.
Take that, psychiatrist.
Yeah.
Take that.
It's you guys thought you were better than the school counselors?
Yeah.
You're wrong.
The school counselors is better than you. That's pretty funny.
What do you say, sir? We get into some film stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's been an hour into this podcast. It's more than overdue for the audience for us to talk about film.
Yeah, so if you're only here for film stuff, this is where we'll put a timestamp to just skip to 105.
Yeah.
Or however much is there after we cut earlier shit out.
Yeah.
But that being said, there was a segment that I wanted to start, a quick segment semi-weekly here. It's going to be a segment where we talk about one unmade film of the week.
Yeah.
So these are films. This is a topic I'm actually very interested in.
Uh-huh.
Just these ideas of like what could have been, right? What's a great idea that somebody had and they got maybe a certain length through pre-production.
Yeah.
And they were gonna make
it ended up
right
in development hell, as they call it.
Yeah, and then it just went nowhere. It died off, right?
Yeah.
And often what I've found is these are always really great ideas, but it always had something to do with, how budget or how marketable the idea was, right?
Yeah.
So I want to do usually just one semi-weekly, but this week, since it's our first time, I'd like to do a couple. The first one I wanted to talk about is, did you know that David Fincher was going to do an adaptation of 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea?
Really?
For Disney.
Yeah. Well,
Jules Verne's classic.
Yeah, no, that sounds amazing. I feel like that would have been great. Why didn't they make that? That sounds awesome.
He cited it was budgetary reasons. So he said, let me see here. I had it. Fincher told a reporter, he said, quote, "You get over 200 million, all motion picture companies have corporate culture and corporate anxieties. Once we got past the list of people we could cast as the different characters in the film, once we got past one or two names, which made them very comfortable making a movie at that price, it became this bizarre endeavor to find which three names you could rub together to make platinum."
Yeah.
So that's kind of weird. So I guess he did say at the beginning of the sentence, he said you get over 200 million. So, and it said here, let me see. So Fincher was developing the movie with Disney. He had locations scouted. He had a massive budget in place before the project was killed because the director and the studio could not agree on casting. Fincher reportedly wanted Brad Pitt or Channing Tatum for the lead, but Disney apparently was determined to have Chris Hemsworth star.
That's so strange. Do you think that's like a really
weird
strange
reason to?
Yeah. Because Channing Tatum is not
That
even
is a weird reason.
That is a weird reason because it's like if the man wanted to literally have Brad Pitt, it doesn't get any bigger than that. You know, it's like what DiCaprio.
Yeah.
Like I feel like DiCaprio's the only one that's bigger than that guy.
Yeah.
What in the world? And they were like, no, it
sure.
has to be Channing Tatum. Like that's really where they put their foot down. Like a guy
that had to be Chris Hemsworth.
Oh, Chris Hemsworth, yeah, that's right. Oh, jeez, Channing Tatum. Chris Hemsworth, like a guy that's really only known for playing Thor. And any movie that he's made outside of Thor has not sold or had a critical reception or anything. Maybe they just had that guy like on a contract obligation. Maybe they were just like, we have Chris Hemsworth. He has to do anything that we tell him to do. So we would need you to put this on him. And he was like, no. Because, dude, it's possible. It's possible that he was like under contract with them where he owed them like a free movie. Like studios do shit like that with contracts where it's like, oh, we'll pay you $100 million to do Thor, but then you have to do a movie for us, you know, and we'll have to pay you, and we'll pay you like on scale or something. So it's possible that it's possible that they gave Fincher the $200 million, and they were like, we're giving you this money to make this movie, and we can have Chris Hemsworth for nearly free, and he will guarantee us some box office profit, and this is all that we're asking for. And he was like, no. And if that was the case, then fuck David Fincher because he was wrong for that.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I mean, I would recommend too, everybody go and look at the concept art for this movie. The concept art is beautiful.
Yeah.
Disney kindly, I guess, provided, at least made it public. But it's really nice, man. But yeah, David Fincher is wrong for that. If that is the case,
he's wrong for that because if he really did that to his own project based on the fact that he just had to have Brad Pitt attached, that's silly, man. Like you robbed yourself and the audience. Like, dude, you could have worked with Chris Hemsworth. The guy looks like a pleasant guy to work with. Never heard anything bad about the guy, you know, so it's like obviously he's not bad, and you can probably, if you're half decent director, you can direct the guy. He's a movie star, and you're making a kids movie with Disney anyway, you know.
Yeah.
So it's kind of silly. Man.
It is.
I'm looking it up just to see the art.
Now the art's really nice, man. All those giant squid and subs and stuff.
Yeah.
Marines. Nice. So there were a couple others that I wanted to bring up here, just as little bonuses for this weekly thing that I want to do, because again, I'm really interested in this kind of stuff. You know, just kind of seeing what could have been, and you know, it's kind of cool. Obviously, I think one of the most famous examples would be his first name's Andre, but Jodorowsky's Dune project.
Oh yeah, that's like a famous one. They even made like a documentary about that.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, it's called Jodorowsky's Dune.
Yeah, and that situation was interesting because the team that he put together for that project went on to create, I mean, like Star Wars, Alien, like they collaborated, like Hollywood was using the team that he put together.
Yeah.
they saw how great the team worked together, like the team of concept artists.
They're like, this is neat. Let's take it.
Right.
So let's take it and just remove
team of production designers.
Let's remove Jodorowsky from it, and then let's take everything else.
And make other movies.
So you stay.
He said. Yeah. And Jodorowsky said that when I hope I'm pronouncing that at least close to correct, but he said that, he didn't want to see David Lynch's version of Dune, because that's the one the studio ultimately went with, was David Lynch's. But he said that when his friends dragged him to see that one, and a few minutes into the movie, he was like happy because he was just like, "Oh, this is terrible." And,
yeah,
I feel vindicated.
Yeah, yeah. Well, good for him.
Yeah. I would love to get my hands on he has like a whole book, like a concept
with art
book,
and everything,
and yeah, it's all the art and all the story elements and stuff. But I think it's like $1,000 or something like that.
Really? So it's like for sale, but it's like really pricey.
Yeah,
he's gotta get the money for his time back somehow. He's like, I'm just gonna sell this like at a really overpriced price.
Yeah, seriously. They have the same thing going. There's a book, like a coffee table book, which is The Art of Hannibal, the show Hannibal, and that goes for, I want to say it's let me look it up right now. Art and Making of Hannibal, the television series. Yeah. It's like $173, and that's for a used copy, I think.
Wow. It's not even new.
$224. Yeah.
Ugh.
Ridiculous.
But I love those like arts of books. Like any of those books that just have like illustrations from like a great show, great movie. They're always like such a neat thing to have, man.
Yeah, I love those. I got you that Evangelion one, didn't I?
Yeah.
For your birthday last year?
Yeah, I cherish it. Nice.
Nice, such a good friend.
Yeah. That one so overpriced. Yeah.
You don't know that. Maybe I spent $1,000.
I know what you spent. With those books, it's like you know what I'm talking about? They were like, you buy them and there's like stock to them. Yeah. Like when you go to Barnes & Noble, like you can't get away from that. It's just like printed on the book. It's like US this much, UK this much. It's like, oh, all right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
One of my favorite possessions I have is a coffee table. It's like the size of a coffee table book. It's The Art of Ray Harryhausen.
Yeah.
And that's a great one. And that actually has a ton of his concept art for made and unmade, like lost films or unmade films that he went into pre-production on and had pitched to studios, but they just never came to be. Yeah. And I'll probably do some of those in coming weeks. Talk about ones that are kind of interesting.
Yeah.
But the couple bonus ones that I wanted to bring up. Did you know that there was supposed to be a Paradise Lost film starring Bradley Cooper as Lucifer?
No, but that sounds very interesting. What is that? What has that guy been up to anyway? I'm gonna look up what Bradley Cooper's been doing. Because I feel like ever since he made A Star Is Born, I feel like I haven't seen him on anything.
The director would have been Alex Proyas, the guy who did he did the movie Dark City.
Yeah.
Which you and I couldn't even finish.
Yeah, no, I couldn't finish that movie. We couldn't get to that thing.
Yeah. And then he did The Crow, Gods of Egypt, and I, Robot as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, varying degrees of success. I've heard The Crow is good. I haven't seen The Crow.
I haven't seen The Crow either. But I know that guy passed away during the filming of Bruce Lee's son. You know what I'm talking about?
Did?
Huh? You know what I'm talking about?
I don't know who you're talking about. Lee?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like during The Crow, like the star of it was Bruce Lee's son, and he like passed away during the shooting of that movie.
shit! I
'Cause there-
did not know that.
'cause
And
there was
they
like a-
still put the movie out. That's
Yeah,
weird.
yeah, because there was like a gun malfunction. Like it was basically what happened with that
Ooh.
movie, like the movie with Alec Baldwin. Like
Yeah.
they had like a gun on set, and something went wrong with it where he actually got shot and it killed him.
Damn.
But they put that movie out.
And they
They
were
were
somehow.
like we sunk we've sunk too much budget into this. This is going out. We're releasing this. And it's like him for most of it, and then like I think some scenes it's like a body double or something like that.
Wow.
Yep.
Oh man, it's crazy. I
Yep.
did not know this.
Really, you didn't know that?
No.
I thought that was like for the Crow. I was like, but my impression was that was like the most well known thing about that movie, that that Bruce Lee's son died, in the production of that.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know much about that movie. It's on my watch list, but I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, no, I've been meaning to check that out for a while also.
Yeah, same here. So I'm definitely I would implore everyone listening to go look up Paradise Lost unmade film concept art. They had some pretty cool concepts here.
Want to look it up?
It looks like Lucifer sort of went through. He sort of looks like he goes through a Darth Vader kind of transformation physically.
Yeah.
Where he starts out at the beginning of the film, he's this very kind of godlike looking figure, and then by the end of the film, he's this really contorted, gruesome looking thing with horns coming out the top of his head and horns coming out of his chin too.
Huh. This is pretty sick. Yeah, this is pretty sick art.
Yeah.
Scott Derrickson.
I would love to see
an
adaptation.
Yeah, no, this looks awesome.
Yeah, it would have been cool.
The reality of it is
that studios are scared of movies like this.
I think
they're scared of big epic things that don't have that. Excuse me.
Bless you.
Thanks. Their studios are afraid of big epic things that need a big budget that just don't have like a proven track record, especially these days. They used to not be. Yeah.
Because when I look at this stuff, it's like, okay, the concept art looks great, but there's a huge chance that they would have made that movie and the movie would have been horrendous.
Right.
There's a huge chance of that, There's a huge chance of that with any movie ever, that it's like, these things are just like a gamble, whether it's actually going to be good or not,
It's tough with that. It's tough with that, like, biblical stuff, too, because with that biblical and mythological kind of stuff, there's a fine line because you wanna make it serious, right? And generally with mythological ancient stuff like that, you generally kind of want to make a serious sort of film, and it's hard to do that when you have a bunch of CGI buzzing around.
Yeah.
Which you kind of need for certain set pieces, right? I mean, it's doable. You know, I mean, they've done good Greek mythology movies even in the modern era. I mean, I think Troy is a well-made movie.
Yeah.
Because they don't go overboard, but then you look at like the remake of Clash of the Titans and it's like, it's a little,
Yeah.
There's some goofiness there because the CGI just looks, it's like,
I'm looking at concept art for
in a superhero movie or in a but even in a Star Wars movie, Star Wars movies are kind of, not even just the Disney ones, but like the prequels, for instance. It's like those are more serious films, but they're not meant to be taken totally seriously. But there's a sense of kind of bravado and just like that bravado that you want to bring to an adaptation of an epic poem of Milton.
Yeah.
It's tough. You got to balance that line. You don't want it looking like Gods of Egypt, which is what that director did before,
Yeah.
You don't want it looking like that.
Yeah.
But you're right. That could have turned out horrendous.
Yeah, no, because that's the thing. Because like looking at that art, I'm like, man, this art looks great, but it means nothing, Like it really means nothing.
Certain things don't. Yeah, not everything can translate well to film. That's just kind of the reality of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird because I would love to see a great adaptation of like Paradise Lost or Dante's Inferno,
Yeah, it's tough, man.
but
Like
it's tough.
somebody with like quite the credibility would have to take up on that. Like somebody with a lot of pedigree would have to be like, I want to do this, just to be able to get it off the ground. Or, somebody would have to convince a studio to make it into like a show, which it seems like studios are more willing to do shows about stuff like that these days than like an actual movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I would
Television's
love to
where
see a
it's at
Dante's Inferno
with
TV
original
show.
ideas.
Yeah, I'd love to see a show about that. I feel like it would be easier to get that off the ground for like some creator that for like the team that has been doing what's the name of that The Witcher show on Netflix. I feel like that team could be like, okay, we've had a successful run with Netflix. Let's pitch them, a Dante's Inferno show. I feel like they could get away with that. Just whoever has been doing a successful science fiction, or visual effects heavy show. I feel like it could get away with pitching that. We need a hero. We need somebody to come through.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then kind of as a last little bonus one, Unmade Films, and again from here on out, he's in the coming weeks I'll just do one, but just since this is our first segment and it's a special kind of thing, I'll just do another bonus one. Is Hellraiser Origins. This was never gonna get made. Hellraiser Origins was never gonna get made.
Yeah.
And I think that was probably just the working title, I hope.
Yeah.
But Hellraiser Origins, if you look up that, you don't even have to type in concept art. If you just type in Hellraiser Origins, you'll see all of the sort of concept art come up under Google Images.
Yeah.
I think it was the same, unfortunately, Paul Gerard, it was the same guy who did the concept art for the Unmade Paradise Lost film.
Really, a poor guy. He's quite the blitz. He's like really like putting a wrench on all these projects.
Yeah.
He's
done. Yeah, I mean, Paul Gerard, let me see, what's he done? He's done art for a lot of big name movies and stuff, but the names kind of escape me. I think he did art for Maze Runner, I want to say. Okay, he did concept art for Battle Los Angeles, Wrath of the Titans, and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So he's got a good
he's got a track record.
He's got a good track record.
Yeah.
But Hellraiser Origins, and I read the whole pitch, or I listened to the whole pitch on YouTube, and I mean, it's a cool story. It basically takes place in sort of like this sort of ancient high fantasy world where tribes of people worship these different kind of Lovecraftian beings and stuff, and Pinhead is like the main character, and it's sort of the idea that Pinhead isn't necessarily a person, but it's sort of a mantle that's passed, a torch that's passed, over time. And because obviously in the original Hellraiser series, Pinhead was a World War I veteran, so obviously wouldn't be the same guy in this scenario. But basically, the pitch kind of goes like Pinhead rules this tribe of people or whatever. And I don't remember what it is, but some folks are sent to assassinate him or something like that. And they end up killing his wife and daughter or something like that. And so then he goes on this quest to get this, sort of magical item, the quote unquote seed of Leviathan, to resurrect his dead wife and daughter. And sort of the thing culminates in this, sort of large scale conflict. I think it ends with the world being, basically becoming the puzzle box or whatever. And Pinhead becoming the ruler of this hellscape. I'm not really doing the pitch justice. I'm just kind of piecing together what I remember. It's been a long time since I read it, but it sounded kind of cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just, and this is even a proven property, but, it's like to put that much of a budget into a horror franchise, it is like, I don't know.
Yeah.
That's tough.
Yeah.
especially like Hellraiser. I mean, it's not Hellraiser's, Hellraiser's a big horror franchise, but it's not
that big.
The 13th.
Yeah,
it's not Halloween. It's more in the vein of
thing.
No, it's more in the B tier with like Pumpkinhead and Candyman and
it's like
Leprechaun
more,
and
it's like
that
more
kind of
it's
stuff.
like more
For
of like a
better or
cult
worse.
thing. Yeah, it's like more of like a cult thing, but on the higher end of cult horror for sure.
Yeah.
It's
like maybe on the level with Evil Dead, possibly.
Yeah.
Like, a studio's not going to throw 200 mil at Evil Dead.
No, absolutely not.
But people will come out to see it.
Yeah, absolutely.
But anyway, that's what I got for the Unmade films.
Yeah. But that being said, do you still plan on reading those work stories?
Yeah. Let's I'll read part 1.
Okay, let's get into it.
How about that?
Yeah.
We'll get into it. So I found this story online. Maybe people who've listened to our podcast have heard it before.
Yeah.
But it's called The American Dream by the Forgotten Employee.
Yeah.
And it's about this guy who so I'm just going to put it out there. I don't think for a second that the story's real. The first couple parts seem realistic enough, but then it gets into like movie territory where it's not, it's not completely unrealistic. I mean, it's not like, dragons start showing up or anything, but it does get a little outlandish toward the end where it's like, I don't think this really happened.
Yeah.
Nonetheless, it's very entertaining, and I did buy it for a while until it started to get into crazy territory. So it's divided into. It's one of the best stories I've ever read on the internet. I mean, it's super entertaining because we all have that feeling of like, man, wouldn't it be nice if I could just get away with not working at work?
Yeah.
Especially if you work in a white collar environment.
Yeah.
I think in a white collar corporate environment, it's even more. It seems more possible to get away with not working in a corporate environment.
But you could just somehow just not do it.
Yeah, because especially nowadays where people are working from home and there really is this feeling. Like I know when I'm working from home, there is this feeling of like, holy shit, I could just walk away from this fucking computer right now.
Yeah.
And time really got away from us on this one. We've really been tangenting on this one.
Yeah.
I feel like it's been 90 minutes, but it has.
Yeah.
All right, guys. So here we go. This is the American Dream. Part 1. Epiphany was had this morning as I perused essay, sipping Code Red, and toying with the notion of stepping outside for my 3rd cigarette in an hour. 9 years and 2 months of my life been devoted towards the goal of personal advancement within a small yet thriving company. I arrived one spring morning at the offices of a local company. Just a 15-year-old, acne-encrusted face in the crowd with a dot matrix printed resume extolling my massive abilities with the 386 computer and willingness to work after school. I was immediately hired at minimum wage and began a series of menial jobs within said company, authorizing credit cards and serving as a squeaky voice telephone operator. At 16, I graduated from high school and moved to the wonderful world of college. Yet for the sole reason of tuition reimbursement, I continued with the same company, continuing to bounce around from department to department, serving as a van driver, shipping and receiving inspector, and MIS administrator. I never stayed in one place for very long. It was during this time period, the wonderfully blurry undergraduate years, that I unknowingly sowed the seeds of my current employment bliss. The groundwork was laid. From graduate school, my contributions to said company began to become clear to some in positions of power. I was transferred for the 11th time in 6 years, this time to a place of some responsibility for the everyday running of the company. By day, I struggled to comprehend superstring theory, laboring under the false assumption that a master's degree in physics would bring exciting things for me. By night, I climbed the corporate ladder,
Wow.
supervisorship, management, power. Had it all at age 21, a brand new piece of paper designating me a master in the physical sciences and a management position in a strong company.
Oh, man.
A score of people twice my age reporting to me. I worked 70 hours a week, but I believed that I had achieved in a short amount of time what it had taken my father 50 years to attain. Then came September 11th. As the Twin Towers fell, the economy fell with it. Faced with massive layoffs, my company was forced to cut my entire department and leave all responsibilities solely in my hands. I was a manager with no employees, a general without an army. Yet I still toiled long and hard. It continued this way for 3 months. I never slept. I spent every waking minute at the office, yet I convinced myself that this was still the greatest thing going. The American dream. In a morning coffee and donuts meeting, a vice president suggested the possibility of moving myself and my responsibilities out of the corporate offices and instead to a satellite facility some 1,000 miles away. Seeing this as an opportunity for advancement, I jumped. So I arrived, acquired a large office in a remote corner of said facility, and continued with my march towards greatness. Then something strange and wonderful happened. In Outlook, an email appeared with my name in the courtesy copy field. Apparently, a new vice president had decided to delegate the responsibilities that once were mine to another department. Immediately frightened for my job and my well-being, I was tempted to scream out. Yet thankfully, I remained silent. I continued to come into the office on time every day, picked up the random pieces of my old job that were left scattered in the transition, and waited for the word. At my friend's was 4 months ago to the day.
Wow.
After 30 days, I became convinced that I was a forgotten, non-digestible entity in the corporate stomach. No man ever comes over to ask me for anything. Although I am but a manager and directors roam the hallways like rabid hyenas, I am much too senior to all of them for them to attempt an attack. Every once in a while, the phone will ring and an old acquaintance will ask for help solving a problem. I gladly comply. Sometimes I let the phone ring. But the voicemail light never comes on. They move on to the next target under the false assumption that I am much too busy to be bothered. I started coming in later, wearing blue jeans on Mondays, testing my limits.
Yeah.
I take 25 cigarettes.
This is
Go ahead.
This is Office Space.
It really is.
Yeah.
I take 25 cigarette breaks a day, come back into my air-conditioned office, dim the lights, and browse the internet in a half-comatose state until I determine that it is time to pack up for the day. Old copies of Baseball Weekly adorn the mahogany desk, and reams of paper lie in and around the unattended trash bin, each covered with random drawings of stick figures and jet fighters. I often roam the hallways with a piece of paper and a mug of coffee, exchanging pleasantries and talking about the weather and equally mindless topics with my coworkers.
Yeah.
Go to meetings, and other managers gaze with reverence at my presence. I am never invited, but to those who know not what I do, I am respected and welcomed. It hit me this morning that perhaps all of my endless toil and hard work has landed me here. I've transferred so much within the company that all paperwork on me has been long since misplaced. I exist.
He's on payroll.
I exist only in a computer program that spits out a 4-digit paycheck to my bank account every other Thursday. Just another tick. Another tick on the underbelly of the corporate warthog.
He's on payroll. That's the thing that matters for him.
Too senior to be fired, too misunderstood to be bothered. I am truly the forgotten employee. And so, my essay friends, I think this was on Something Awful Forum, so that's what essay is. Yeah. And so, my essay friends, I am quite open to suggestions about how I may truly test the boundaries of my newly discovered freedom. A webcam lays in its box underneath my desk, awaiting my motivation to install it. No suggestion is outside the boundary of reason or consideration. For I have now found my holy grail.
I
I
mean,
have achieved the American dream.
I mean
End of part
it
one.
does sound a little bit like make believe, right? Like it does sound a little bit like make believe.
Yeah.
Not in anything that he said, but the last like paragraph, like where he was just like, "Oh, tell me anything, and I'll do anything." In that is like, dude, this is sounding a little bit fake. But before, I could
Yeah.
100% believe that was like an actual thing. Like I could 100% believe.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
like I believe that that's probably happening in this country every day. You know, like a bunch of people
Oh,
are just
yeah.
like doing random things.
Oh, yeah. Dude, this story only gets better. Man,
Yeah.
I can't wait to read the next few parts
Yeah.
over the coming weeks.
Well, everybody,
So
stay tuned.
everybody.
Stay tuned. That was awesome.
This is actually making me want to. Yeah, this is actually making me. So you know how like some channels will like divvy up segments of the podcast into
Yeah.
clips and like put those that we should.
Yeah, cut.
You should
cut,
start doing
cut.
that work, Edward.
You should start doing that, Edward. Yeah, we could do that after the
we
fact.
can just do it whenever we feel appropriate. But anyway,
Yeah, that makes sense. That was awesome.
Edward,
Dude, I can't wait to hear what happens from there.
oh, dude, it's so good, man.
That's a great
I
hook.
thoroughly
that
enjoyed
the first part.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
No, he's a great writer too.
Yeah.
He's very eloquent.
yeah, that was good. That was fun.
Edward, go ahead and recap your week, man.
Well, for me, well, this is our as it goes. This is our weekly recap segment. Movies, music, whatever we were reading, anything. I listened to the band Fleet Foxes over the last few days, and I really enjoyed it, but I have like mixed feelings about how the discography developed. Fleet Foxes is, for those who don't know, Fleet Foxes is a band, specifically a folk band, that started in I think it was like mid to late, like 2000s. Initially, the band was comprised of a group of fellows that included Father John Misty, who I spoke about before, who also, who then he split off the band and he's had a solo career of his own since then, in which he's just been making kind of singer-songwriter folk music. And so I listened to their self-titled Fleet Foxes album, just titled Fleet Foxes, in 2008. And that album was great. 11 tracks, 39 songs, 39 minutes. And that was a great album. I would give that. I mean, that was like really like enjoyable, just like solid, like really just down to the grain folk music. And if I was gonna rate that album, I would just give it like an 8 out of 10. And I recommend from that album the songs "White Winter Hymnal" and the song "Quiet Houses" and the song "Meadow Larks," the song number 9 from that album. I thought those songs were really great, really stand out. Then I listened to one of their more acclaimed albums, and it is called Helplessness Blues, which somehow kind of fits with the story that we just read. And I had a little bit of trouble with that album because I felt like it was a step down. Interestingly enough, because if you look online and you look at like the ratings and the reception historically of this band, Helplessness Blues was like a big step up. People were like really like, oh my God, because they really kind of key in more helplessness, like in this kind of more, this attitude and this melancholy with the songs, that in the songs that it works, like really works. But I felt like the album was kind of uneven in comparison to the original self-titled project. But the first song of the album, called Montezuma, is a standout. And the track number 6 that is titled after the album, called Helplessness Blues, is also very good. Grown Ocean, the very last song of the album, is very good. Someone You Admire is very good. The song number 8, Lorelei, is very good. So there's like really, really, really good folk songs in there. But I also think the album just kind of has songs in there, and you getting through those songs as you're going through the album. There's songs in there that are not as appealing as the other ones, and I really did feel like the first album, Fleet Foxes, was a more consistent listening. Then
Gotcha.
I listened to their third album. And funnily enough, if you go on Apple Music, their essential album is the self-titled Fleet Foxes album. And I agree with that, Regardless of what the reception of Helplessness Blues was when it came out and has been, I do agree that Fleet Foxes, the self-titled 2008 album, is their essential listening. I think that's the best one. I would give Helplessness Blues like a 7 out of 10, because I did think it was a step down. Then I listened to their third album, Crack Up, that came out in 2017, so about 6 or 7 years after Helplessness Blues. And I thought Crack Up was a great return to form, in the sense that, after 6 years, they made like a really good album again. But I also believe that it has the exact same issues that Helplessness Blues had, but differently. Because Crack Up starts with a bunch of songs. The first, specifically the first the first 7 songs of the album have like just weird names, Like the first song is called I Am All That I Need / Arrojo something. The second song is called Caches, but with like weird lines and marks. The third song is called Naiads, Casaids, like they just like start like all the songs. I don't know if you can see this, but all the songs just started being named just like strange names, weird, like, maybe just like a little like names are probably paying tribute to stories or to folk tales or to things, but with the name of the songs being like strange and obtuse, the songs were too. And I found myself having a tough time enjoying them, But when the album gets to song number 6, which is called If You Need to Keep Time on Me, from that song, the album has 11 songs and it's 55 minutes long. But from song number 6 onward, and you could say song number 5 called 3rd of May, but I'm going to say 6. Because number 5 is still pretty good. But from song number 6 onward, there's another song called On Another Ocean, which is song number 8. Song number 9 called Fool's Errand, Song number 10, I Should See Memphis, and song number 11, Crack Up, titled after the album. All those songs are excellent, just excellent folk music. But the album then comes across as just being really lopsided, where it's like you have the first 5 songs that just feel like this weird, watered down, obtuse songs, that I found hard to enjoy personally. And then the latter half of the album that was just really excellent. So I feel like that album is like on par with Helplessness Blues in just kind of being like a 7 out of 10. Good listen, but not great. And then I listened to their 4th album, which is called Shore. As in the shore of like an ocean. And that's like also the picture of the album is a shore. So I listened to Shore.
Okay.
And this album was an interesting experience because as opposed to their previous albums that I would say are folk, Americana albums, this one is this like alternative rock, soft rock with like sprinkles of Americana and folk in there. So it and from the very first song, it came clear. I was like, "Oh, this is like a rocks album. It's like a soft rock, like I'm like an old man rock album. I can't stand harsh sounds, and everything needs to be really soft, Like this is a soft rock album, and this is
the type
like
of rock that I listen to.
This is a soft rock album.
My Crosby, Stills, and Nash listening ass.
This is a soft rock album, and it is, without a shadow of a doubt, their worst album. It's their worst album. Like, I don't know what to say to folks because I think people still enjoy that album. Obviously, it's like a change of pace for them, but I'm looking up like the band right now just to see what the reception of the record was. Because I'm curious. Because let's see. So here's Fleet Foxes, Helplessness Blues, Crack Up, and Shore. Because they only have those 4 albums. They released a live album called A Very Lonely Solstice, but that's just like a live record. But these are like they only have 4 studio albums. But yeah, if you look up Fleet Foxes, like this, the first one, it just has glowing reviews. Helplessness Blues has even better reviews than the first one, even though, like I said, I think the first one's better. Crack Up, again, has very good reviews. It received widespread critical acclaim, bunch of 8 out of 10s, 8.7 from Pitchfork. So then Shore, 2020. Let's see what people said about this record. Let's see. It still says it received universal acclaim, but its scores was like a little bit lower. Like Pitchfork gave it an 8.3 out of 10, and then it has like an 87 on Metacritic, 7.9 out of 10 in Any Decent Music. But still, I believe 100% that this is their worst record. And it's just because it just feels like a sacrifice in quality for the sake of just kind of moving away from folk. And in the general description on Google, like on Wikipedia, it just says indie folk, chamber pop, folk rock. And I really do believe that it's better classified as like folk rock, chamber pop, and not like solid, just like plain folk at all, because it's not, I would give that album a 6 out of 10. It's longer than the previous ones. It's 15 tracks, 54 songs. And I would recommend the song Sunblind and Can I Believe You, which are the songs number 2 and 3, and also song number 5, Featherweight. And that's it. That's all I have for that. Because it was great listening to Fleet Foxes, because I had listened to those songs before. When I first got to like I got halfway through the Fs, and then I was like, I have to go back and listen to like albums that I really didn't pay that much attention to, and that's why I'm back to the Fs again. But in re-listening to these albums, I've come to appreciate the earlier records, and I've come to understand that their last record was kind of a misstep for me. I don't think they really did all that well with doing that, but as a little tease with what's to come for music for next week, I am going to be listening to Flying Lotus and Fontaine's DC. And possibly, if I make a good way through the music, I will get to Mr. Frankie Ocean. But I don't make any promises. That might be 2 weeks from now.
Shouts out to Frankie Ocean.
Yeah. Well, that's it. That's it for the music.
Cool.
Listen to Fleet Foxes if you like folk music. That's about it. What you got, sir?
I'll have to check them out. I mean, I like Crosby, Stills, and Nash. They're more like folk rock.
Yeah.
They're on like the soft rock side, but there's some folk-ish kind of stuff they've done. So maybe I'll like it. Maybe I'll like their last album.
Yeah, listen to their last album. Like me being like, I didn't like this so much. 6 out of 10. Like maybe you would enjoy that one more than I did.
Could be. I'll have to check them out.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. I'll rattle off the movie news for the week real quick. I skipped it last week. I shouldn't skip it again. There was actually stuff that caught my eye.
Yeah.
And real quick, like if you have thoughts, if you have nothing on it, just say like, nope, I don't have anything about that. Yeah. Like I'm fine. Yeah, it's whatever.
Yeah.
More of a shout out here. Better Call Saul season 6 is
on
finally
Netflix. Yeah, I saw that. Absolutely great.
In the US of A.
Yeah.
Yep. Fantastic.
Yes.
Thank you, Netflix. Finally, in the United States, we always have to wait on these shows. They apparently over in Europe just get them as they come out
right away
on Netflix. So yeah. So whatever. But anyway, so I'm looking forward to rewatching a little bit of that.
Yeah.
The Insidious 5 trailer just dropped. They're actually going back to the original cast. So like Patrick Wilson, Rose Byrne, Ty Simpkins. They're going back to that storyline. From what the trailer seemed kind of cool. I saw a piece of the trailer, and then I got distracted. So I need to actually go back and watch the full trailer. I know, guys, I'm unprepared.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I've lost touch with those movies because I've only seen the first 2.
Yeah. I've seen all of them. I think the first one's the only great one. I think the first Insidious is a great film. It's one of the scariest movies out there. I mean, I think it's no. Again, I've said this on another podcast, but it's no accident that pretty much every subreddit post about like what movie scared you, there's gonna be someone in the comments
The
that say
mentions
Insidious, this
yeah.
scene. Yeah, I mean, it's always somebody. That's
somebody
one of the
tiptoeing
movies
through
that
the
terrified
rainbow.
our generation.
Yeah.
What'd you say?
So there's always somebody tiptoeing. What is it? Tiptoeing through the meadow, through the rainbow. What is it?
Through the tulips.
Oh yeah, through the tulips. There's always somebody tiptoeing.
Yeah, exactly. Seen Insidious, you get that reference. The a new trailer for the Stephen King Boogeyman adaptation came out. I haven't watched that yet, so I need to go see that. I don't have this in my notes, but actually I just remembered Evil Dead Rises comes out this weekend, so I might have to go catch that in the movies.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of ads for that one.
Yeah, that they're advertising the shit out of that movie.
Yeah.
That crazy zombie lady's face.
Yeah.
God, I see it everywhere.
Yep.
Wan is reportedly directing a Dead Space film. James Wan being the guy who directed Insidious and The Conjuring.
Okay.
So, could be cool.
What is Dead Space? Isn't that like a video game?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, it was very heavily influenced by the Event Horizon film from the 90s.
Yeah. That sounds interesting.
Yeah.
I feel like James Wan is like always at least worth checking out if the movie has like positive reviews, because he's a very consistent director.
I agree.
Now, did he direct Insidious or no? I feel like we talked about this.
He did.
He did?
He directed the first Insidious and he directed the first Conjuring.
Okay.
He may have directed the second Conjuring as well.
Okay. All right. Okay. Good. Okay. Because I remember that
I believe he directed the second Insidious. So I think he directed 1 and 2 in both of those series.
Yeah, I think so too.
And then he just went on to keep producing them.
Yeah. I'm glad that because I think last week we talked about whether or not they were like with Blumhouse, but we cleared that they're not with Blumhouse, right?
Conjuring, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Exactly.
Okay.
But yeah, the new Insidious 5 trailer looks kind of cool. I mean, they're kind of developing. It's like they're going the route of the dad from the first 2 movies has sort of trauma that he's dealing with because of all that crap that happened which makes sense, you know. You know, it seems like a cool kind of route they're going down, but I gotta go watch the trailer in full. The Penguin TV show first teaser drop
with Colin Farrell.
People are pretty excited. Yeah, people are pretty excited about that.
Yeah.
That's supposed to be coming out in 2024, so we still got a solid wait on
that.
Yeah,
we got a while to go for that one.
Yeah. And then the only other piece of movie TV news that kind of caught my eye was apparently a RoboCop series and movie is in the works for Amazon Prime. And I didn't know this, but they actually did make one season of a RoboCop TV show back in the 90s. I think, only don't quote me on this, but I believe it was with the original actor.
You know that there was
apparently it's one of the most underappreciated TV shows of all time.
You know that there was a RoboCop animated series, right?
Oh, there was?
Yeah, I saw that as a kid. I saw that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have clear memories of the theme song, of like watching that show when I was a kid. There's a RoboCop TV show, like an animated show.
Animated. Okay. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. And just to keep myself fact checked here, it was not the same. I don't think it was the same actor. It was not the same actor.
Okay.
100% it was not the same actor that played RoboCop. It was not. Yeah, it's not him. Okay. But anyway, that's the movie news that I got. So on to my and in music news, Alchemist dropped an album today, so I'm definitely going to going to listen to that. From what I gathered, the features. I mean, you got the Odd Future lineup. You got Tyler is on it. Earl Sweatshirt's on it.
That was today.
Genesis is on it. Yeah, at noon. Vince Staples is on it as well. He's Future adjacent. He wasn't actually in Odd Future, but
it's called No Idols.
Collaborating with them. Yep. Okay. So I'm excited about that. Looks like it features Freddie Gibbs.
Yeah. Space Ghost.
Smoke Dizza.
Earl, Tyler. Yeah.
Yep.
Huh. Stacked. All right. I'll take a listen to it.
Yeah. I'm definitely going to be listening to that. For my recap, real quick, just to rattle it off. On the music side of things, a lot of re-listening kind of. So on the rap side of things, AI covers of Future songs made me want to go back and re-listen to a little bit of Future stuff.
Yeah. I'll get to him too. I'll get to his stuff soon too.
Yeah. You're in the Fs, man.
Yeah.
But I re-listened to a lot of the Monster album, which is definitely, in my opinion, one of his essential albums. When he became sort of the Future we know and love, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a great album. It was originally a mixtape, and now it is available on Apple Music. Standouts on that one: Radical, Monster. After that, featuring Lil Wayne. I really like the song Tupac. Love the song Wesley Presley. That's a great beat.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the classic Codeine Crazy.
Yes.
Yep. That's the rap side of things. On the metal side of things, I'm very picky with my metal music. So for those listening, depends on what kind of metal you like, whether you want to kind of take my suggestions. I generally like metal that has clear vocals. Some screamo's fine, but it has to have some clear vocals at least at some point in the song. I generally just like more melodic metal. So think progressive metal, doom metal, things like that. There's a metal band that I discovered a little while ago that I've been listening to more of called Swallow the Sun. This is a doom metal band. They have a great album called When a Shadow is Forced into the Light. It's kind of a long title. Standouts on this song for me, or on this album rather, standout songs. It's a short album, only 8 songs. Standouts are Upon the Water and Never Left for me on this one. A band that I've really been getting into is Type O Negative. It's a 90s doom metal band. I played a little bit for you when you were in my car a few months ago, Edward. They're fantastic, great metal band, awesome vocals, awesome. I mean, just everything.
Yeah.
Peter Steele. To a little bit of. Been listening to a little bit of Kill Switch Engage, which I really enjoy. Many of you might know them as the people who did CM Punk's first theme song in WWE. Been diving more into Catatonia's discography. They're a great doom metal band.
Yeah.
Very melancholy music. Yeah. They're awesome. And then on the, let me see here, on the rock and roll side, I've been going down like a 90s kind of grunge rabbit hole on the rock and roll side, trying to dig up like some more obscure grunge bands outside of the big 5. Yeah. You know, like Pearl Jam, Nirvana, all those guys.
Yeah.
So some bands that I've discovered that I had never listened to really, Screaming Trees, and then Mother Love Bone. They only had one album actually back in the 90s. One of their main band members succumbed to heroin, I believe. Don't quote me on that, but they died for some reason.
I see.
And it was either heroin or suicide. I can't remember.
Okay.
Supergroup Temple of the Dog, which they only released one album, but it was comprised of some grunge band members, and the singer was Chris Cornell from Soundgarden. And then as far as movies go, I rewatched Dragged Across Concrete this past week, as I said I was last week. Yeah. And God, I love that movie, man. It was honestly better watching it this time. Like it just got better for me. I was like, man, this movie's so good. Yeah. I feel like when you rewatch it and you know that it's kind of a slow burn film, you start to realize that there's a lot of there's like some Hollywood shit in that movie, like that feels kind of like Hollywood trope, but in a good way and sort of like a welcoming way. where you're kind of like, okay, I'm watching this like slow burn kind of film, but there's also something about it that feels sort of, it's very 70s and macho, like, you know, kind of that Dirty Harry era of film.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love that movie. At your request, I actually watched Breakdown.
Out of my request.
Or at your recommendation, not at your request.
Did I even recommend that thing?
Edward. Yeah, no, Edward's forcing me. Edward held a gun in my head and made me watch Breakdown. Call the police.
Oh man.
No,
like
with
that?
Kurt Russell.
Yeah.
Oh, I loved it, man. It was awesome.
That's the movie
I have a theory.
This is the movie where I said that, like, I remember I had like a whole thing about that movie, didn't I? About him, like,
did you?
I remember, man. I did. I had like a whole thing about that movie where I was just like, no, it was not about that movie. No, it was not. It was not about that movie. No, the movie's right. The movie's all right. It's a decent movie.
No, it's great.
Yeah.
It's great, man. I have a theory. I think this movie was the official inspiration for the Family Guy chicken fights.
You think so?
I do. I definitely do. There was like that ending fight and then the aftermath with like the somber kind of music.
Yeah.
I was like, holy shit, this is one of the Family Guy chicken fights.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like when she releases when she puts the
falls
truck
on
in neutral or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, this is the Family Guy chicken fight.
Yeah. It's
Oh
pretty
my God.
funny. That's pretty funny. Oh, geez.
Telling you, I tried to look it up. I couldn't find anything.
Yeah, no,
but
that's
I think I'm right.
No, that's a decent, like, fun, like, silly night kind of movie, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely.
For sure.
And then finally, because we need to get to our damn film here. I've been powering through the latest season of You. I'm almost finished with that. It's really gone off the rails. I don't like the direction they're going in. There's
Really?
just massive inconsistencies, man. I don't agree with the character, the direction they're taking Joe's character in, and there's just things that are not believable at all.
Yeah.
So my thing with believability in film and in fiction overall, right, is I think you can bend rules as far as believability goes in terms of things that the physical world, right? What you can't do is bend the believability of human behavior.
Right.
That's what no one buys. I think that's a good rule of thumb. So like if you want to have scenes where John Wick, for example, gets shot in the leg, thrown down flights of stairs, and, you know, hit with a car, and he still gets up and walks. You have him have a little limp, people can get around it, right?
Yeah, so he got a little hurt. Yeah.
Yeah,
Superman
but if
Wick.
someone's... Exactly, but if you're completely changing human psychology for the sake of your plot, no one's going to buy it. It goes out the window, man.
Yeah.
People cannot suspend their disbelief if characters are behaving like not like human beings.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that's some of what's happening for me in the new season of You. There's things that stretch reality for me.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I got one episode left, and
Well,
then
let's
they
see.
got
Let's
the
see.
final
if it-
season coming out.
if it
So we'll see
redeems
how they end
itself.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Final season is coming next year, so we'll see.
Yeah.
And finally, the final season, fourth and final season of Barry has premiered.
I
2
saw that.
episodes are on HBO.
I saw that.
Yeah,
Barry.
you could tell we're in the end game, man. Even without that foreknowledge,
Yeah.
just by watching it,
Yeah.
because it's getting dark, man. You can tell it's moving toward an
Yeah.
end game. So we'll see how that goes. But I'm enjoying it so far.
Yeah. There's another show that you feel like you've recommended me that show for like the past 6 years.
I feel like Barry might be hit or miss for you.
Yeah.
The ones that I know you'd like are Hannibal, and I know you would like the first season of True Detective.
Yeah.
But yeah, anything else I recommend to you is like possibly like good, but those are the 2 that I'm positive you'll like.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
That's it.
Well, then, all that being said, what do you say we discuss The horror movie that everybody's been talking about, Skinamarink.
Skinamarink. I just wanted to say that. So fun.
This movie is directed by Kyle Ball and his brother Edward Ball. This is just a reference to the time.
Is that true?
No. This is a reference. This is a reference to that time, like the very first time that we spoke about it, and I looked it up. It had like a mistake on Google where it said it was directed by Kyle Ball and Edward Ball.
Oh, but that's his name.
That's just his name. His name's Kyle Edward Ball. Yeah. So, I went into this film with really high expectations, and before I talk about whether those expectations were blown out of the water or whether those expectations were met or whatever, I want to know, sir, what was your experience with Skinamarink?
So yeah, man, a little bit of everything, honestly. That anything you've heard people say about this movie, I felt. Yeah. I can say about it.
Yeah.
Any of the Rotten Tomatoes headlines that anyone says, whether they were a fresh review, a rotten review, or a mixed review, whatever, I'll probably agree with those. All of the above. It's like, was this movie, like, you look at Rotten Tomatoes, right, and you see people saying, this movie was, super well crafted and terrifying.
Yeah.
B, this movie was terrifyingly dull. C, I'm not sure what to think about this movie. D, all of the above. My answer is D, all of the above, right? Those are my thoughts on this movie. Like, I'm very much an everyman on this movie. Because I felt kind of all of that with this film. I mean, look, what I will say is this, first off. Skinamarink is fucking scary.
Yeah.
Skinamarink is scary. I mean, I watched this movie by myself, alone, in my room, bed, lights turned off, TV on, like, boom, let's go. Let's get immersed in it, right? Just get immersed in it, right?
Yeah.
And this movie frightened me. I mean, it got my heart pumping. I mean, it is very effective at imitating the nightmare of a child.
Yeah.
It brings you right back to, in some of the plot elements, which we'll get to, it brings you right back to when you were a kid and those little fears that you had. I mean, it brought me back to when I was a kid, and I remember, I remember one night when I was a kid, right? I was sleeping at a friend's house, and I was at this sleepover, and a few of my friends, to prank me, showed me a screamer on YouTube. It was like in October too. Yeah. They showed me a screamer, and it scared the shit out of me. And then on top of that, we watched a horror movie. So I was scared shitless, dude. We went to bed, and I woke up in the middle of the night, and I couldn't fall back to sleep for like probably 2 hours at least, right? Yeah. I mean, it felt like 2 hours. And I remember having this thought, like, what if the sun never comes up and my friends never wake up and I'm just laying here like forever? Like, I don't know when I'll feel safe enough to actually get up and see what the hell's going on. Yeah. And that this movie is that, right? Like, because this movie is these two kids waking up in the middle of the night and the sun's not coming up and their parents gone. Dad's gone. Their mom's apparently dead, it seems like, from what's implied in the plot. Yeah. And they can't leave. So this movie's scary, man. I mean, another thing that I want to talk about with this movie is just with on a visual level, right? Visual level, I mean, this movie is super fucking creepy. Yeah. And I can see the comparisons to Blair Witch Project, because that fuzzy, like, VHS camera quality in the dark, in hallways, and looking at hallways and stairs and doorways, that's just really scary. I mean, you can make that scary just by doing that with no budget. I mean, I could turn off all the lights in my house at night and walk around with my iPhone and record me walking through my house, and it would be scary,
Yeah.
you know? And I just felt when I was watching this movie, like the whole movie, the dark, it's just like when you were a kid.
Yeah.
Dark is just playing tricks on your eyes, dude. The whole movie, I thought I saw faces. You know, it like activated the survival portion of my brain where I was always just looking for constant movement. And whenever anything would happen, like a light went on or like a kid comes into the, you hear footsteps, I was like, fuck. I was like, shit.
Yeah.
Like I would get like everything was a jump scare in this movie.
Yeah.
Part of the reason for that is because it's super freaking slow, and we'll get to that. But
And
I do want to sing its praises first.
But there are also actual jump scares in this movie, like actual 100%. Like, oh, that was just a jump scare in this movie.
Yeah,
and I recorded those.
I felt my soul leave my fucking body. During the jump scare, the come upstairs, Kaylee.
Yeah.
And look under the bed.
Yeah.
That whole sequence.
Yeah.
The hand comes out of the closet.
Yeah.
Or whatever. I had to rewind it a couple times to actually see what it was, but it's like I think it's supposed to be the mom, like contorted, like coming out of the closet, and her hand like grabs onto the wall.
Yeah.
I mean, dude, my fucking soul left my body. I thought I was having a stroke when that happened.
They didn't work for me. They just annoyed me, and I recorded every time it happened. The first hour of the movie, it happened in 10-minute intervals. About every 10 minutes, there was a jump scare. Like after the 30-minute mark, because the first 30 minutes there was nothing. It was just kind of setting itself up. At 35 minutes, there was a jump scare. At 47 minutes, there was a jump scare when the girl screams. At 58 minutes, there's a jump scare. So it's like 35, 47, 58, And then at an hour and 33 minutes, there's another one. But there wasn't one again for half an hour. Yeah, the phone ringing. And I wrote ringing.
They were very annoying.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Jump scares are very annoying because it's loud noises that, make your body react. And I feel the same way. I mean, after a jump scare happens, and I want to make it clear, I agree with you. What I was just saying about having a stroke and all that, that's not a compliment to the movie.
Yeah.
I'm actually saying that in a very irritated way.
Yeah.
Because it's just, I saw a review of this movie that someone wrote on Letterboxd where they said, wow, I guess we learned that if you have nothing happening for 10 minutes and then a really loud noise, it'll make me jump.
No,
experiment successful.
Yeah, it says yes, it's true. If you have 10 minutes of silence and then out of nowhere playing an extremely loud, piercing sound, I will be startled. Amazing discovery there. By Patrick Williams. And I have this open because I want
a good review.
I want to bring back like reading the reviews. At least for movies that I feel like there's like an appropriate review that I feel like can encapsulate something, and I have one for this one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So to kind of finish out my portion here and then hear your main thoughts, and then we can kind of have a little discussion before we wrap up. I mean, again, just to keep singing the praises before I tear it apart a little bit. I saw eyes everywhere in this movie. Like I saw eyes like in the darkness, like every little bit of grain. Like if I would rewind it, I would think I'd see eyes like in the darkness. You know what I mean? Like just little portions. And it is kind of fun to pick this movie apart a little bit in that way. Yeah. On a plot level, I think it does a great job of just touching on that childhood fear of abandonment and helplessness, which I kind of think that's what this movie is about at its core. Is I don't think that's an amazing kind of a controversial thing to say. I think I'm kind of saying something kind of basic there.
Yeah.
But I think this movie, I think it's pretty clear in the text of the film that this movie is about abandonment, right? Just being left alone. Yeah. Even when the kid's on the phone with 911, I think it's very purposeful that the operator says, hang on, we're gonna have some grown-ups come and help you,
Yeah.
right? So you feel this little bit of like, oh, thank God, grown-ups, you know.
Yeah.
Really does a good job of just turning you into a child and
Yeah.
manipulating the sort of childhood part of your brain.
Yes.
The cartoon, I noticed, I have in my notes here, the cartoons that were playing on screen kind of mimic what's happening in the film, which kind of was interesting. Similar to the movie Ghost Dog, they kind of did the same thing with that. It's whatever. I don't think that's incredibly genius or anything, but it's kind of cool.
Yeah.
I think it certainly worked better in this movie than it did in Ghost Dog. I definitely got really uncomfortable when the stuffed animals started disappearing, because that was like the demon being like, okay, now I'm going to take away, or whatever it was, the presence.
Yeah.
Like, now I'm going to take away everything that's giving you comfort, you know? I think the part that freaked me out the most was the part with the blood hitting the ceiling. It was almost like the kids being tormented by this thing. That part, man, that part freaked me out.
No, the parts that freaked me out were anytime that it would like talk to them, because the interactions were like so just bizarre, you know. Like when he asked for his sister and he just told him like, I took her face away, you know. I was like, what the fuck is that even supposed to mean, you know?
Yeah.
Like just like these like very like, you know, like horrific interactions with those kids. But for me, like the standout in terms of like me just being like really just kind of feeling kind of like really scared was the last 5 minutes.
Yeah.
It was absolutely just the last 5 minutes. Because in those last 5 minutes,
the face.
Yeah, because in those last 5 minutes, you have, you know, obviously that thing with the phone happens. But that's interesting with the phone, because then you have those eyes, you know, there's like staring back at you, and then it's like, oh, it's the phone. And then it's like, oh, but it's the eyes, you know. And, you know, when you have that scene, we're just looking at the girl from behind, and her head just starts like detaching itself from the body, you know? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
And then it just like spins until it just disappears. And I was like, that's really off-putting, you know? And then, obviously, the very last scene, when it's just this thing, you know, that I was just like staring at. It's just this thing just looking at you, you know? And it just puts you in this position of this kid that's just in bed, and all the lights are off, you know? And there's a person right there, you know, who looks like it's your mom, but it's like it just looks like something, you know. And you can just make out that it has eyes and a mouth, but you don't know if it's smiling or grinning or frowning. You don't know anything, you know. That was horrifying, you know, just that prolonged sequence. And that kid just asking its name and then nothing, and then just asking its name and then nothing. And you're just like, what is up, you know? And then it just goes like, just go to sleep, you know? And you're just like, Jesus, you know? I'm like, Jesus, you know? Like, that was terrifying, you know?
And it really brings you back. I mean, dude, I remember as a kid just waking up middle of the night and just that fuzziness, you know, that grain in this movie really actually captured that well.
Because absolutely,
because you see that when you're, you know, even now, not even just as a kid, but like now when you wake up in the middle of the night, I mean, there's just this fuzz, you know, in your vision. Adjusting. Kind of try and fail to adjust.
Yeah.
And you start to see like little things like in the darkness, and like, you know, different, like a chair might look like a person for a second, you know, and you might have like a stack of towels sitting on something, and for a second it looks like someone crowding, you know what I mean? Just shit like that. But yeah, and also at the end, I think this was in the last few minutes, it just suddenly cut to all those different like photos.
Oh yeah, the photos of those kids.
The kids missing their heads.
Yeah. Yeah, that was off-putting, man. That was off-putting. Like,
dude, I'm like alone in this room. I'm like alone in here. I'm like starting to look around and shit. Ugh.
Yeah.
God.
Yeah. No, that
was. I mean, this movie wasn't. Yeah. This movie was scary.
Yeah.
I mean, it was scary. You know, there
Yeah.
was some scary shit
Yeah. But
about this movie.
that was the thing. Like, you have to engage with this movie. You know, like
You do.
this is a movie that is like literally just requires you to meet it where it's at, and it's like if you're not willing to do that, then it's just not gonna work. You know, this is a movie that
No.
doesn't work in most scenarios. Most
No.
scenarios, it just doesn't work. It just falls apart. You know, so it's like this movie just has.
This isn't a horror movie you can put on in the afternoon
No.
and just, you know,
No,
not like that at all.
no, not at all. You just have to be kind of in a certain mood, certain place. And the funny thing is that if you do meet this movie at where it's asking you to meet it at, then you're probably gonna be like traumatized.
Yeah,
Because
probably.
I did not meet this movie where it was at. I was just really impatient with this movie. I was just kind of like, you know, it's come on, let's go, give me
I was
something.
too.
You know, I was like so impatient.
Yeah.
And then when things escalated at the end, I was like thanks, you know, finally, you know. But
Yeah.
those were the only memorable parts of it all, you know. Even the part with the dad being like, look under the bed, and I was like, oh, something's gonna jump at me. So I was just kind of like anxious about that. But
Yeah.
I didn't really appreciate that scene very much. To be honest, like the earliest scene that I was just kind of like, oh, what's happening? It's when the girl goes upstairs by herself, and then she comes back out and she notices that the little light on the hallway is like plugged off, you know. And she just
Yeah.
stops, like, looks at it, and it's like, oh, it's curious that this thing that was connected on the wall to illuminate my path is now plugged off. And then that door was just like open, you know. And then you just have this like weird interaction between the girl being like, you know, something might be in that room, and then going into the room and having this POV of being in the room and then knowing that the girl's outside of the room. I found that like really unsettling, you know. And then
Yeah.
anytime that this like voice would interact with them and be like, come upstairs or do this or do that, or, you know, those were like really creepy instances, you know.
Yeah.
But for the most part, I was like
that,
really
and then
impatient.
also, oh yeah, and then also like 30 minutes in when you hear a thump upstairs,
Yeah,
and it's just like, oh fuck. Like there was a part of me that was just like, oh fuck, here we go.
yeah.
Here we fucking go. You
And,
know, it was
and
like weird for a minute because the kids are like, oh, it should be light outside now. What's going on?
yeah,
You know, where's dad? And then and windows and doors are disappearing. But then when you hear the thump upstairs, like something's up there, it's just
yeah.
like, oh
Jeez.
shit.
And you feel bad for
But
these
I
kids, man.
agree with you. Oh yeah, this movie's very cruel, and
Yeah,
I did hear that, and I thought the same thing when I watched the short film
yeah.
Heck. We can get to that in a second here, but up watching that?
No, I didn't. I slacked off on my homework. I didn't watch it. I watched like a minute of it, and I was like, I'll watch it another time.
Yeah, I thought the short film was actually a little scarier than the feature film, to be honest.
Yeah.
I don't know if maybe the short film hit me hard because that's what I saw first, and then
Yeah.
I desensitized to it. So then by the time I watched this movie, I was already a little bit desensitized to the format
Yeah,
because of the short film.
Yeah.
That may be the case, or it may be the case that the short film's more effective. I don't really know.
Yeah.
There were two particular parts in the short film though that scared me more than anything in this movie particularly.
yeah,
One of which you can see in the actual thumbnail for the short film.
yeah. There's like eyes looking back.
Oh god. Oh fuck. But I think they could have done more. Yeah, I agree with you though, man. This movie was really hard to get through.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna lie. I'm gonna be totally transparent here. About an hour in, when we were just in shots of hallway, carpet, and everything, I did have to hit the skip button a few times where I was just like, I can't. I was like, motherfucker, and I just would skip to like until I saw subtitles.
I
Like,
didn't,
I was
I
like,
didn't
I
skip.
can't.
I didn't skip over anything, but I did check my phone like multiple times through this movie. I was just like, oh, it's like,
Oh yeah.
because I was like, I can look at my phone and look at this movie and know that, you know, I could be like, on, you know, like fucking Google doing whatever, and it's like I know that there's fucking nothing happening on the screen, you know, so it's like whatever, you know, it's like on my periphery. If I see something change, I'll look back, and if it's the same, and I'll just keep scrolling.
Yeah.
I did not engage.
Hopefully,
with this
I
movie
haven't
like
made
that.
myself. Yeah, no, definitely.
You can't blame
I did too. I mean,
you can't blame us, man. There's like I feel like nobody can be like, oh, these guys. Like, no, man. Like, didn't you watch the fucking movie? You know, like, geez,
yeah,
man.
you try making it all the way through.
Without
Jesus
any like
Christ. I
pauses
mean,
or interruptions or just getting distracted, especially in this world that we're living in, man. Our attention spans have become nothing. So it's like you can't blame me
yeah.
for this.
I mean, people who thought it astounds me that people in the '90s actually there were critics of the Blair Witch Project that were like, nothing happens in that movie. It's like, what are you talking
A
about?
lot
A
happens in that
ton of
movie.
shit
Yeah,
happens in the Blair Witch
yeah,
Project, especially when you compare it to this, which a lot of people are saying that this is like the modern day Blair Witch Project, which I can see that in some regards.
yeah,
Um, and I could see this film having the same kind of legacy moving forward in the coming decades in horror history,
yeah,
minus the um, fake documentary aspect
yeah.
of Blair Witch, the viral marketing kind of thing.
I just think
This
I think he could have
Skinamarink
done
had
better.
some good marketing.
Yeah, I just think the director could have done better, and I also think that he maybe could have shaved off like 10 to 15 minutes off of this film.
Oh, you could have made he could have made this movie. This movie is an hour and 40 minutes. He
Yeah,
could have made this movie an hour and 20
yeah,
easily.
yeah, absolutely.
Because I
Little,
get
I
it,
got a little
man. A lot
indulgent
of
with
people
it.
said, yeah, because I get it, man. A lot of people have said, like, oh, this movie should have just been a short film. And it's like, no, I get it from a standpoint of you're a new director, you want to make a feature film, make your impact. I get it. But this movie, like, yeah, make a feature film, no matter what it is. Like, get your feet wet, break into the industry, absolutely.
Yeah,
But easily made this 80 minutes and sacrificed no plot
no,
whatsoever.
no, everything comes through regardless. Everything comes through
Yeah,
regardless. This movie was a little bit too long, man. A
definitely.
little bit too
I
long.
have a theory about this movie too that I wonder if, because a lot of people have obviously gone and dissected this movie, tried to figure out what the meaning is and everything, and um one possible scenario that I came up with, I think I actually came up with this just when I watched the short film Heck. um I wonder if Skinamarink, what's actually happening, and this is just a weird theory, may or may not be tinfoil hat. That's kind of up for you to decide. I wonder if this is a haunted house movie from the perspective of the ghosts.
That's what I thought. That was my theory. Like that's what, but that's like also what I said after the fact when I was speaking about it.
Yeah.
I just said like I said that it felt like this is like a movie about ghosts that are like in limbo and they just are unable to
Yeah.
move on to whatever the next step is, and they're just like perpetually stuck in this situation, in my head I was like this probably was like a weird like Chris Benoit situation. Not to, I mean, I apologize, not to just bring Chris Benoit into random things, but that's what it kind of, that's kind of what it felt like, where it was just like, it seems like something happened with these kids and their parents, and they all passed away in this house, and these
Yeah.
ghosts are just like all here, and we're just watching this movie from the perspective of like the kids that are ghosts. We watched those like images. It was just like those like still photos. I thought like it's probably just photos that like the police and the investigators took when they found them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, that's a good point. I didn't even think of that.
that's what
Yeah.
I thought about it.
It's even Yeah. I think we could make that the official theory of the
Yeah,
movie,
I
man,
mean,
to be
it makes
honest with
perfect
you.
sense. Like, given like the text of the film, and even if you like read like the Wikipedia of it after the fact, like it makes good sense with that.
Yeah, that's my thought too, because I've always, like I remember when I was younger and I had kind of supernatural fears and fears about the afterlife. This movie was actually sort of how I pictured being a ghost would be, because I always thought I had these weird thoughts where, because in a haunted house movie, right, you see this, it's like, oh, this family, you'll get to the house and the house is haunted, and then they flee eventually at the end of the movie, right?
Yeah,
And I always kind of I remember as a kid having this really dark thought of like, what's it like for the ghosts before and after that family is at the house.
Yeah.
Like in those intermissions, what are they doing?
And
It's just
have you
in
seen
this
have you seen a
house.
movie called The Others? That's
No,
what that movie.
no,
That was
but
so.
that's with Nicole Kidman, right?
Yeah, that's what that movie's about. You know, I mean, obviously that's like me saying that it's that's the whole plot twist of the movie, but that's what that movie's
It's
about.
the Sixth Sense, kind
Yeah,
of,
yeah,
right?
yeah. But it's like it's
I heard.
literally.
I already knew that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's literally what happens to that movie. And this movie literally felt that way. And it felt like whenever they had those interactions with their parents, it was just kind of giving you a little bit of the narrative of like what the home life was like, you know, like how they were interacting with those parents, you know, what they
yeah.
might have done to those kids, you know. Um, yeah, yeah.
I
It's
wonder when does how does the whole the first scene where the kid falls down the stairs? I wonder how that plays into our theory though,
yeah.
because I don't really know.
I don't know. It might have just been one of those things.
Doesn't I don't. It's like it doesn't fit.
Yeah.
Oh, it's weird, man. I'm getting really creeped out talking about this.
No, dude, and that's the thing. Like me thinking about it yesterday, I was like, this is really like it was just like so. It's just very upsetting, you know. Like if you just
Yeah.
think about the context of it all, it's just like really upsetting. These poor kids, you know, and the older brother, you know, it's like he's just like let's just go sleep downstairs, you know, and it's like oh gee, you know, like man, poor
Yeah.
kids.
And that was one of the, I guess, to add like a silver lining onto it. I mean, there were a couple moments of the film where they actually had a little bit of comic relief at one point with the kids when they shoved the bucket in place of the toilet,
Oh yeah,
and then
that's
one of
right.
them goes, "Gross."
Yeah, that's
It
right.
was like a little bit of comic relief, and then I
Yeah,
thought the relationship between the brother and sister, or obviously what happens to the sister, it was cute, man. It was a little heartwarming. It was like, all right, there was a little comfort there where it
yeah,
was like, well, at least they have each other. And of course, then they get torn apart, and when the movie becomes really upsetting is when the little boy's just alone dealing with
yeah,
this
yeah,
demonic presence. it,
yeah,
it really was a very psychologically cruel film,
yeah,
um and it was very scary, man. It was
yeah,
very effective.
yeah. When it wanted to be. You know,
Yeah,
10
right.
minutes, 10 minutes out of an hour and 40 minutes. It really was.
Yeah.
It really came through, you know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
I think there's a more successful version of this movie. I think it exists, and I
Yeah,
hope somebody makes it because it exists. Like this exact same movie, but the really scary version of it, you know, like the hereditary version of this, you know, the one that really goes there, you know, and that really leaves you being like, this is the worst thing I've ever seen in my life, you know,
right.
and I would never be the
And I
same.
agree with, yeah, I agree with that, man. Because to sort of piggyback off of that, I had a thought during this movie where I was like, it actually, on one hand, it's like this was masterful in a lot of ways, but in some ways, it almost seems, to play devil's advocate, seems sort of easy to make something scary when you just take away a lot of like the need for plot and
Right,
acting and all of that, and you
right,
can just film dark corners and hallways and just have like mumblings
right.
and stuff
And
like
just be
that.
suggestive, you know, it's like, oh, this is happening, you know, out of frame,
Exactly.
out of the screen.
Exactly, but there is something to be said about having something like Blair Witch Project, or even traditional cinematic narrative films like Sinister, Insidious,
Yeah,
Hereditary,
yeah,
so on and so forth, at where you're able to make it scary but also weave in a story, and it's scarier because of the story that's there,
yeah,
right?
yes,
There is sort of a symbiotic relationship between scares and creepiness and all that stuff and story and
yeah,
characters and theme and all that kind of stuff that doesn't seem to that's I don't see that symbiotic relationship in this movie.
yes. Um, But yeah, man, I feel like the only thing that I can say at the end of the day with this movie is that the last 4 to 5 minutes of this movie are going to stick with me for a little bit. And that's it.
Yeah.
You know, but that's more than I can say about a lot of movies.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think bits and pieces from all 3 acts of this movie will probably stick with me.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel the same way, man. This was really, really frightening.
Yeah.
Because
like, dude, specifically like the last minute of this movie with that, with just that face, that was terrifying.
Yeah.
Like, you couldn't pay me to like just be like, Edward, do that now. Turn off the lights and watch those last 2 minutes again. You couldn't pay me to do that shit, dude. Like, that was terrifying. It's terrifying. That was one of the worst things I've ever seen in my life. It was so unpleasant, man.
Oh yeah, man. Someone on YouTube brought up that scene, and they brought up something interesting that I've thought about. And they said they called it a show scare.
Yeah.
So it's like the opposite of a jump scare, where it's like there's no jump scare and there's no suggestive like it in there. They called it a show scare.
Yeah.
And they brought up like certain parts of like Jordan Peele movies.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's kind of interesting, man. That's show scare. And that is an interesting thing that I think is underused in movies, where it's like something that you can actually see and it's still scary versus what's unseen.
Yeah.
And that's a fine art.
Yeah.
And that's tough to do.
No,
and he nailed that.
We nailed it, because it just makes you have to. It just makes you have to kind of like fight with this thing, where you're looking at it and you can't completely comprehend it, yet you have to come to terms with the fact that it's there, and the fact that it just ceases to explain itself. It just leaves you just with this feeling of helplessness, It's tough, man. I give this movie a 6 out of 10.
Okay.
Where do you land with this thing?
Either a 6 or a 7. I'm undecided.
Yeah. I was between a 5 and a 6.
Yeah. Okay. Because the amount of boredom, I could easily go down to a 5.
Exactly.
But because of how masterful the scares were, I really don't think I can give it a 5 and feel justified in that.
That's where I give the movie. That's where I give the movie credit. Where it's like it really excelled at some points, but it was really boring and really long, and it had really shitty jump scares. But everything outside of those things, it was great.
Yeah. You would think if there was any movie that would not do the cheap jump scares, it
would have been this one. Yeah, dude. When that happened, I was like, "What?" And then when it happened again, and then when it happened again, I was like, and then when it happened again, I was like, "What?" It's like, really, But it's like, oh, whatever, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but
I don't know.
I think. I recommend this movie. If you're a horror fan listening to this, and you're like, just, if you're trying to just see whether or not we recommend this, I recommend this. But if you just want to watch this thing, then watch it with the lights on. If all you want to do is just watch it, and then just be able to see what we saw. But if you really are just looking for the peak experience from this thing, all lights off, middle of the night, this thing. And if you do that, then you'll probably, you probably won't be able to sleep that day. But yeah,
this will stick with you.
This will stick with you. That's
absolutely.
For sure. Yeah, that's for sure. It deserves a watch. Absolutely, 100%. It deserves people's attention. I believe that.
Mm-hmm.
But all of that being said, let's leave this thing behind. Let's fuck off this movie.
I'm starting to look over my shoulder, man. I'm not gonna lie.
Let's leave this movie behind, man. What do you have anything for next week?
I will, Edward. I promise you that. But
it's a mystery week.
I'm undecided. I'm bouncing around a little bit. So yeah, I'll let you know, and everyone else, you'll find out.
Okay.
Next time.
Let me give a quick little review. This is the only review that I wanted to read. It just says, what just did for swimming in the ocean, Skinamarink did to midnight potty trips. This is from Cine.
I saw that one.
This is from Cinephile. 4 out of 10.
Yep. Yeah. That's a great review.
But,
very true. Very true.
But that's it. Apparently, the name of the movie comes from a song that originated in a musical from the 40s. No, 1910, from a musical called The Echo. And it's a song called Skinamarink. Because it just goes like Skinamarink, I love you, or whatever. And he based that off. He took that for this movie. He named it Skinamarink just to make it so that if kids look up the song Skinamarink, they won't come up with this fucking horrifying movie. So he was just doing that to save actual kids from trauma.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was aware of that. I do remember in elementary school, our music class.
It's like Skinamarink means I love you or something like that.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. I do remember that from second grade music class. So, yep, that's what I think of when I say the title of this movie. And now the two are intertwined. Yeah. And I hope I don't ever hear that song ever again in my life.
I listened to the song before the podcast. So I was like, what song is this? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, what Insidious did to Tiptoe Through the Tulips, Skinamarink did for Skinamarink.
Yeah. So. But, well, you audience will know what next week's movie is whenever you see the title of the episode. Until then.
Exactly. Until then, we are out. Everyone have a beautiful weekend.
All right. Film Tangents out.